And we are live. What's up, everybody? Hope everybody had a
All right,
nice
let's try.
holiday. We are live and back in business. We're starting a new direction here, going into stuff that people
Here,
do
hit
not want
plug.
to talk about. And yes, we're live. Um, I gotta tell everybody, like, this whole group that I'm with right here, none of us hate Jews, okay? But we seriously disagree with their actions and their ideals and what they're doing to society by their ideals, okay? Um, there's certain um, groups on here that don't want to talk about this stuff. They don't want to go the distance and talk about this stuff rationally. We have other groups on here that are trying to make us all look, downright crazy or estranged or just like a bunch of anti-Semitic nutballs. But these groups that are out there making us look bad are, claiming that they're supremacists and they're not. And we know who these groups are. And they're dressing up like rabbis. They're looking like a clown show. So the average normie out there sees this stuff and turns their cheek. You know, um, there's reasons why there's criticism of um, what you call the Jews. And over the centuries, way before Zionism, way before Theodor Herzl came on the scene, um, they were expelled from many countries. Okay, we all know that this group is not unwise to that. I'm trying to reach new people out there and understand why our group here feels the way they do. Okay, they get expelled for mainly three reasons. One is usury. Two is the perversions they put in the media, the perversions that end up being viewed by our children in Hollywood. Hollywood is basically what they call Kabbalah magic. It's spell casting using the holly tree, making the wand to spell cast. So they basically put a spell on the public to manipulate your minds into different ways of thinking and all that. We all know this stuff. But number three, the reason they get expelled from countries is blood libel. And that's what we're going to go over today. We all know that Leo Frank was the reason the ADL was created in the October of 1913 for the murder of little Mary Fagan. B'nai B'rith decided to create the ADL because all the so-called anti-Semitism. That's when this, pretty much started to unravel. These groups in America and all these other countries. Okay, over this case. Okay, now back then when men were men and women were proud of it, justice was served. But the groups of people back then started to see how the lawyers were getting a lot of people out of trial to not get totally convicted to death. So back then, a bunch of real men, as what the newspapers say and what the eyewitnesses say. None of us were there, so okay, there may be another way of looking at this, but this is what we know is the truth. A mob went into the jail cells and took Leo Frank out of the jail and hung him on a tree for justice. And this is where, B'nai B'rith got outraged and decided to create this pushback. The way Mary was mutilated was the same way these other Christian children were mutilated over the centuries for this ritual they do, using Christian blood Christian children's blood that give them certain Kabbalah magic powers, over the people, This is why, they really got expelled from countries. This is one of the core reasons. And it needs to be talked about, This is educational. This is not hate. This is just the facts, okay? This is what happened according to what we know as history, right? So, I know it's touching for some people and uncomfortable. It is very uncomfortable what they did to these children, and convicted of it over the centuries, and justice was served over the centuries. But we know today, today's day and age, it's not going to happen if something like this happened again. But do you really believe that this just stopped? Do you really believe they just decided to stop these rituals? Okay, we got caught, we're going to stop. I don't think so. There's a lot of missing kids across the country. Who knows, man? This is dark stuff. And I'm not saying that it is or isn't happening, but I don't know. This is very compelling stuff that, it's very hurtful to talk about. And I'm even uncomfortable talking about it. It's just sick. It's really sick to do this to a child, and that the word, the pedo word is getting put out there like it's, something comfortable to talk about, and they want to push in the media that, oh, these people are just sick and they need help. No, anybody caught doing that to a kid, deserves worse than death, in my opinion. So, and I think a lot of people out there feel that way. But we're just going to go over, research that a lot of very smart people have done over the years and put out there, and understand this, understand where this comes from, understand why a lot of us in this circle, or these circles, are always bringing up, Jews, so, it needs to be looked at more in depth, so let me start with a little internet page here. Let me introduce, I got Finding Freedom here in OJM. You guys want to say hi?
I'll go first, I guess. So hello everyone. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. So, we got a lot of information to show, and like fellow man said, we don't hate anyone. We're not calling for violence against anyone. We're not trying to promote anything. We're just calling out the specific group of people's actions, and this is really dark stuff, and I think somebody it needs to be explained. So I hope you all find it informative, and I'm gonna give it back to fellow man. And OJM, you want to give an introduction? You can.
What's up, guys?
What's up, buddy? So what do you think about this stuff, man? Like, first learning about it, what do you think?
It's depressing. I thought it, for me anyway, I guess, that thumbnail to the stream is just hard to look at. If you look at it detailed, I'm not going to explain it, but yeah, it's just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It needs to be, this is what a lot of people aren't talking about or forgetting about.
Yeah.
It's just like they're accepting it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be, put out there a little more, and understanding why all these groups are having issues with these people. You know what I mean? Like, it's not hate. It's dislike, and, what else you call it? Disagreement. And this is just...
It's like, it's what I say is this: we don't hate them. We just dislike intensely their actions in the world. That's it. We just dislike what they're doing, their actions. We don't hate them. as people. We just don't like their actions. That's it. That's how I would put it.
Yeah, hate is a strong word, and it just seems like that's being put out there because it's the other way around. You know, when you look into the Talmud, you obviously see it's the other way around. I don't see any other religion out there other than maybe Satanism or whatever, this dark occult stuff, ever pushing any kind of hate. So, you know, you could talk about Christianity all day and night and bash it, but, you know, you talk about other stuff that's the truth of what these groups are doing, then you're the bad guy, right? You're the hater and all that. So, anyways, you know, I could read off some of this stuff about how it started and originated. You know, it goes back to Genesis. It goes back to their Kabbalah magic, what they believe in. Okay. They believe in drinking Christian blood to give them certain powers over the people. Okay. It's a barbaric custom, and it's just even hard even reading this stuff. It's going to be hard for me to read this because it's sick. Here we go. Okay, let me this is by Willie Martin. Okay. He says, at the dawn of civilization, the blood rite in which human blood is drunk from the body of a still living victim was known to many tribes. However, only one people that has never progressed beyond the Stone Age has continued to practice the blood rite and ritual murder. These people are known as world as Ooze. Okay, Arnold Toby, a noted scholar, has called the Ooze a fossil people. Okay, this is by Willie Martin. All right. Okay, they're still known to drink Christian blood. It's a barbaric custom. He just goes into where their parasitic nature originated from, and then, you know, gets in depth about, you know, why they do it. Okay, it says the murderous people, the Jews are under a terrible suspicion the world over, and for good reason. Only who does not know this does not understand the problem. Only who merely see them as a tribe which secures its existence with exchange and old trousers, and whose uniforms are long noses and being misled. But anyone who knows the monstrous accusation which has been raised against them since the beginning of time will view these people in a different light, and began to see not only a particular strangely fascination nation, but criminals, murderers, and devils in human form. Okay. He will be filled with holy anger and hatred against these people of Satan. John 8:44. We go into how Martin Luther wrote a book of the Jews and their lies. He went over some of this stuff on blood libel. It's pretty interesting. I suggest you guys pick up that book. It's very interesting. There's the Simon of Trent blood libel. They stab and pierce his body. They also murdered him afterwards. You know, we're going to get into Simon of Trent here in a little bit. Martin Luther accused them of all these fictionist crimes, which they accuse as fiction, which had made Europe such a hell for them. He too claimed that they poisoned wells used by Christians. That's another one that they used to poison wells. Okay, they didn't get what they wanted. They would poison the water systems. You know, you got to look at that and wonder why fluoride's used today, right? You know, who knows, right? And they did this ritual during the Passover is when it mostly happened. Here's another part of history. He called on the princes and rulers to persecute them mercilessly and commanded the preachers to set mobs on them. He declared that if power were his, he would take all the leader of the Jews and tear their tongues out by the roots. This is from Stranger Than Fiction, page 249. You guys can read this off the chat. We're going to get into the Talmud now. This is the stuff that certain LARPs in this circle don't want to talk about. This is the core of the hate in their writings, okay? If it isn't hate, I don't know what it is. When you call another human being a beast. So we're going to get into that right now. Okay, they say that they are a race that hate the gods and mankind. The laws are in the opposition of all mortals. They despise what to use is holy. Their laws condone them by committing acts which horrify us. The Jews know when the non-Jewish world knows his laws and knows through the plans that he is lost. Therefore, by threat of death, he forbids their translation and publication. A well-known Jewish scholar, Debre David, writes, if the Gentiles knew what we were teaching against them, they would kill us. Yes, I understand what they're teaching in these schools. You know, any human being can learn something in life. But when they teach this at a very young age to these children, to hate other groups of people and call them beasts, you know, it goes on in life. And that's just how they are after learning this stuff. That's how they're going to be. You know, they're Hollywood producers and they push it on the movies, you know. Now here we get into the Talmud even more. Their secret laws are based on a fundamental principle which only the Jew is human. In contrast, all non-Jews are animals. They are beasts in human form. Anything permitted against them. The Jew may lie, cheat, and steal from them. He may rape and murder them. There are hundreds of passages in the Talmud which non-Jews are described as animals. Okay, here we go. Now these are just the quotes, and you can get these quotes from many different books, many different writings. They do not deny this. I haven't seen anybody deny this stuff when they're faced with it. Usually gets censored before you face, you know, someone asking about this stuff. They say, number one, the Jews are human beings. Non-Jews are not humans. They are beasts. Talmud, Baba Marizia, if you could say that right, 114b. The Akam is like a dog. The scripture teaches to honor the dog more than the Akam. Igret Rashi Arad 2230. Even through God, the non-Jew are still animals in human form. It is not becoming for a Jew to be served by animal, therefore he will be served by animals in human form. The Midrash Talapia, page 255, Warsaw, 1855. There you go. A pregnant non-Jew is no better than a pregnant animal. The souls of non-Jews come from impure spirits and are called swine, pigs. Although the non-Jew has the same body structure as the Jew, they compare the Jew like a monkey to a human. This is what they believe in, okay? Not us, you know, that are non-Jew. I mean, it goes on, okay? So the Jew will never forget that he's dealing with animals. He is reminded by eating, by death, and even by sexual intercourse constantly, for the Talmud teaches. If you eat with a non-Jew, it is same as eating with a dog. If a Jew has a non-Jewish servant, a maid who dies, one should not express sympathy to the Jew. You should tell the Jew, God will replace your loss just as one of his oxen or asses has died. Wow. Here we go. Sexual intercoms between non-Jews is like intercourse with animals. Sanhedrin 74b. Here's a big one. It is permitted to take the body and life of a non-Jew. It is the law to kill anyone who denies the Torah, Talmud, Sanhedrin 59b. The Christians belong to denying the ones of the Torah. I mean, this goes on. I mean, what do you think about this finding freedom? You think?
All right, now you did okay. So like, first of all, you did a good. That's a good job reading it. You did a good. So like, there's, I don't even know where to start. Like, one thing people need to realize is, see, I understand not everyone here is Christian, and that's okay. But there's, the Bible's divided in two parts. There's the Old Testament and the New Testament. So, Jews today claim they follow the Old Testament or the Torah. But, that's not, that could be farther from the truth. So, like, for anyone who doesn't know, the Torah is the first 5 books in the Bible. So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. But, like, one thing people need to realize, the word Jew, it's nowhere in the first 11 books of the Bible. There's no mention of that word. Like, so, the religion of the Old Testament is not what we know today as Judaism. It was like how we can talk like in the Bible in the Old Testament there were the 12 tribes of Israel, and like for those who don't know, they came from they're all the sons of Jacob. That's where they came from. Like I don't have the 12 tribes at the top of my head, but they all descend from the 12 sons of Jacob, and those are what became known as the children of Israel. Those are the ones that Moses he led out of Egypt into the promised land. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So essentially what I'm saying is like, yes, there's no mention of the word Jew in the Old Testament. So what happened was,
it came in Kings, right? It was in Kings 15 where
yes,
Jew
it was
first
yes. So I'm just going a little more Bible. So like what happened is like at the end of the book of Deuteronomy, Moses died, right? And his successor was his brother Joshua. So what happened is, yes, God led the Israelites into the land of Canaan, and that was the promised land for them. And essentially what happened is like, yes, they fought the Canaanites, and after they defeated it, the Israelites settled in that territory. Now, yes, the Canaanites were living there. Now, next to the Canaanites, there was 3 other kingdoms. There was the Ammonites, the Moabites, and the Edomites. The Edomites were south of the kingdom of Israel. And, here's the thing. In the Old Testament, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, there was a command given not to intermingle, do not marry with them, or they will try to turn you away from your Lord your God. That was a command that was given. So, and here's another thing. I'll also say that the tribe, it was like, okay, I guess I'll get that to later. So yeah, essentially there were 12 tribes, and they were given orders not to intermingle with them, and to stay away for they will try to turn you away. So what ended up happening is a lot of the tribe's children of Israel, they actually did intermingling with the Edomites,
mm-hmm.
and they brought them into the children of Israel, and that actually corrupted the laws that God had given them, like the law, like the 10 Commandments and the Torah. So essentially they stopped following it, and that during the Babylonian exile, this is when they compiled the Babylonian Talmud, which contained these peculiar doctrines. So when Jesus came in the New Testament, what happened was he actually condemned it. He told us, the scribes and the Pharisees, who descend from the Canaanites and the Edomites, he said, "Woe to you, Pharisees." I'll bring up the verse. So it says this is in Matthew chapter 23, verse 1 to 3. Like, you read the whole chapter, it's a great chapter. It just condemns all the Pharisees for their doctrines. So he said to this, so in Matthew chapter 23, it says, "The scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Therefore, what do they tell you to observe? that they observe and do, they do not according to their works, for they say and do not do. So essentially what it's saying is they're not following the Torah. They're not following the laws of Moses. And it says later in Matthew chapter 23, verse 23 to 24, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faith. Those you ought to have done without leaving, the others undone. Blind guides who strain out a gnat and swallow a camel." So essentially what he's saying is they're not following the laws of Moses, which was given to them. So, when you think about the Old Testament, like, that's not Judaism today. Like, he's clearly telling the Pharisees and the scribes who wrote the Talmud that they're following doctrines which are not from God. So, and another verse, it says in the Gospel of John, chapter 5, verse 45 through 47, it says, "Do not think," Jesus, he told the Jews, he said, "Do not think I shall accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, in whom you trust. For if you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote about me. But if you do not believe in his writings, how will you believe my words?" So he's saying, like, they're not following the laws of Moses, like what Moses wrote the Torah, like Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. They're not following it. They're following doctrines which are totally foreign and not what God wanted. So, and another thing we need to point out, this is something which hasn't been discussed. Like I said, the word Jew does not appear in the Old Testament. It was the tribe of Judah. And what Jesus descends from, his lineage is from the tribe of Judah. He was a Judahite or a Judean. He was not the word Jew is nowhere there. There's nowhere it says that he's Jewish. He was a Judean. He was from the tribe of Judah, the house of Israel. And it goes all the way back to Abraham. From Abraham to Moses to King David. Yes. I don't know.
There were many sects of people back then. Many different sects.
It's a long lineage. I think it's like Abraham. It's like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Joshua, then King David, then King Solomon. It goes on. And then eventually it comes to Christ. It goes in the Gospel of Matthew. Talks about that. So, like I'm saying, the word Judahite is what in the Bible, a lot of times when the word Jew comes, it should be the word Judahite. And, Christ was not a Jew. That's one thing. Like I said, the Jews are primarily, they're descendants from Canaan, and they're from the Edomite tribes. And one thing about Edomites they're descendants of Esau. And Esau, for those who don't know, Esau was, so Isaac, after Abraham's son Isaac, he had two children. One was Jacob and Esau. And, in the end, God chose Jacob to be the righteous one. He told Esau that he was wicked and that, your descendants will worship false gods. And I should remember the verse, but essentially he said that, yes, your descendants, you will suffer, your descendants will worship false gods, and your descendants will be wicked. And that's what the Edomites are. And there were commands given not to intermarry with them, but that's what they did, and that's how they came into the Judaism. That's how they got mixed in with this Judaism religion. And it went from there. And, after Christ was crucified, that's really when this organized Judaism as an organized religion came about. It was essentially in a response to Christianity coming about. So, the true children, according to the Bible, the true children of Israel are the ones who accepted Jesus as the Messiah and the Son of God, the Lord and Savior of the world. So,
what's interesting here too is they do this sacrifice during the Purim and Passover festival. Okay, it's basically the reversal of what God preaches. They're basically mocking Christ by doing this. You ought to read all this information here. It's just overwhelming. It's in the laws of the Talmud, the law of human sacrifice. I mean, this is research very smart people have done over the centuries, man. I mean, it's overwhelming. You think they're making this up? You think they feel like doing all this research for nothing? If these people were doing the, nice things, they wouldn't be so upset, right? They wouldn't be saying this stuff, disagreeing with their ideals, right? So, this is what it all comes down to, really. I mean, you agree with that? Finding freedom? You know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I do agree with you. Yes, so I think it started. What started their wickedness is when is them rejecting Christ. That's what, like, it's essentially turned. Like, if you go to the time, like, when Jesus was on trial, they had a choice who to free. Like Pilate gave that choice. I'll either free Barabbas, or I'll free Jesus, who they call Messiah. And the Jews, they picked Barabbas, who was a murdering serial killer, and they let him go. So, like, it's like, yes, they have been, like, throughout history. Like, there's a good book I highly recommend. It's by E. Michael Jones. It's called The Jewish Revolutionary Spirit. It talks about, like, how after the crucifixion of Christ, it talks about everything from the crucifixion of Christ till today. It talks about how, the Jews today have been revolutionaries, and how they've been, they are the real radicals who've been, like, where a lot of the revolutions and a lot of the problems that we've seen are Jewish in origin. And
Yeah.
it's, and I know we can't really talk about this stuff, and like I'm saying, we don't mean it, we don't hate,
Yeah, there's no hate
because
here. It's just discussing the situation and what other people have researched and are telling us. Okay? I mean, there was that lady on the Oprah show in 1989, a Jewish woman, talking about how her own family was doing these rituals. Okay? It's very interesting. May of 1989, the Oprah Winfrey show had its guest a young girl was forced to participate in a ritual in which a Christian infant was sacrificed. The amazing thing about this guest is that she was not affiliated with some unknown radical bloodletting cult, but she was a Jew, according to the article on the show in the Chicago Tribune. The woman was undergoing long-term psychiatric treatment, apparently because of her horrible experience. The newspaper article is quoted below in its entirety. Jews protest sacrifice tell on Oprah show. Now, are there certain, you could say that there are certain Jewish people that want to get away from this and break from the teachings that were taught to them. Everybody's human, right? Everybody's human. So what we're talking about is the core belief of Judaism is the issue. These ideals in the Talmud. Okay, that's the issue here. Hundreds of television viewers and the leaders of several Jewish and civil liberties organizations have protested allegations on a popular talk show last week with some Jews practicing ritual killing of children. The allegations were made by a guest using a pseudonym, Rachel, on the Oprah Winfrey show, I can't say, a widely viewed syndicated talk show. During the program broadcast Monday. You just can read it here. It goes on and on. But I remember that show. If you guys done your research on this stuff, you could find it on YouTube still probably, because it doesn't say certain words where the algorithms can knock it off as hate. But she goes on Oprah and just basically blows us out of the water, and there was a big uprising about it, like she was a traitor to her kind, right? But this goes on. I could go on for hours about this, but I want to get into more of the blood libel history. Okay, give me 1 second here.
I just want to say, like, in the Old Testament, it's also like, people sacrificing their children. That was condemned. That was condemned by God. Clearly said that to not sacrifice your children, and they have disobeyed the commandment.
Like the Ammonites and the Baal worshippers,
the Moabites and Ammonites and the Moabites. Yes, he told them, do not imitate those nations. Do not sacrifice your children to Baal. And
yes. Let me get this up for you guys. Now, this is their version of events, okay? And this is from that. This is what they reviewed, okay? And this is what they're saying is, anti-Semitism. But this is their accounts. So this confirms that this blood libel has happened, okay? I mean, over the centuries. I mean, look at it all. Where it started. let's see here. Let's see where the first one starts. I mean, you could read about the history. I've already talked about it. Okay. The blood libel is St. William of Norwich. Okay. The earliest recorded accusation of Jews killing Christian children in ritual murder, though not for blood, is possibly the case of William of Norwich in 1144. 1144, okay? Long before the political movement Zionism was even around, right, guys? Make that note.
Yeah.
Make that note. Then we'll go over the
Yeah,
expulsion.
I mean, we want to point, we just want to point out, whoever's calling out Zionism, Zionism is just one side of the coin. Like, they have different, the Jews have different groups. Like, they control communism, Zionism, Freemasonry. Like Freemasonry is more like, it's like Judaism for the Gentiles, they call it. But essentially just calling out Zionism is not enough. It goes way deeper than that.
Yeah. And we can all debate who really controls those groups. So that's always a two-way discussion, right? Right, Finding Freedom?
Yeah,
to be honest, in a debate. So, but a lot of people come to these conclusions, and it looks like it may be true. So,
if you look at a lot of the founders, like a lot of people behind the communist movements in Russia, they were primarily Jewish, like Vladimir Lenin and Trotsky. A lot of
we're keeping this educational and not looking like we're against, accusing them of controlling all groups.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
One thing. If you look at the two,
we want to keep this. We want to keep this up. We want to keep this up and not get hit.
Yeah, I also want to point out one thing. Like, a lot of if you look at two of the biggest genocides in the 1900s, and those were the Armenian genocide and the Holodomor.
Yeah.
If you look at who plotted those, it was also primarily Jewish. I believe the Holodomor, which is the mass Ukrainian starvation. It was one of Stalin's. I forget who was. Do you know his name?
Kaganovich.
I think was it?
I don't know. There's so many of them.
Yeah, but it's like. And completely. One thing people forget about the Holodomor and the Armenian genocides, they were targeting. Those were primarily targeting, like, Ukrainian Orthodox Christians, Armenian Orthodox Christians. So, it was a genocide against Christianity.
Yeah. Let me go through these blood libels. There's so many of them. Blood libel of Harold, March 18th, 1168. The body of a boy named Harold was found in the Severn of Gloucester, which was mutilated with traces of burning on the flesh and the garments, thorns in his head and armpits. So they were like mocking Christ. Oh my goodness, this is some sick stuff. Okay, blood libel of Saint Richard of Pontus. If I say that correctly, is that how I pronounce that? 1171. 1171, bro. Okay. Blood libel of Robert of Bury, St. Edmunds. 2 years afterwards, 1181, boy Robert was found killed at Bury, St. Edmunds. John de Taxter in his chronicle says the boy Robert was martyred in St. Edmunds by the Jews on Wednesday, the 10th of June. You could read about that. It's all here. Blood libel in Thomas of Can't Temper, if I say that correctly. Some of these names are crazy. It's quite certain the Jews in every province annually decide by lot which congregation or a city is to send Christian blood to other congregations. Thomas also believed that since the time when the Jews called out to Pilate, his blood be on us and on our children. That's one they couldn't put in. What was the movie? Passion of the Christ? They had to delete that scene. They had to delete that scene because they considered it anti-Semitic. The Mel Gibson movie. I mean, this goes on. You guys know. Blood libel of Fulda, 1235. Blood libel of Valerius, 1247 in France. blood libel of St. Hugh of Lincoln. You know, you look at all this, and you're gonna tell me that this doesn't exist, right? I mean, all through history, yeah, all these peoples are making it up across the world, right? They're making this up. Go ahead, OJ.
Aren't there some LARPs in this circle that say it's a conspiracy theory,
Uh,
right? The blood libel.
I heard one. I'll say this, that Claire Caw has said blood libel is a lie.
Was it her that said it? Oh.
I've heard it come out of her mouth.
Well, one thing people need to consider is like, there are this many accusations. Like, if there are this many, something is not right.
Yeah.
Like, you have to think about that.
Okay, if there's one or two, maybe it's conspiracy. Someone's off their rocks. But
I want to say our politicians some of them were saying, American ones were saying it was conspiracy theory. I can't remember her name, that Muslim politician in New York. You remember her name? She was bringing up the blood libel in Israel, doing what they're doing.
I think she might. Is she the one from, what's her name? Ilhan Omar? Like,
might be.
yeah, I forgot.
She might be she might be disinformation, like, because she never really like calls them out. Like, she just goes like, she just scratches the surface, and I don't trust her.
Libel.
I wouldn't trust her.
I don't trust her.
I wouldn't trust like.
Well, it's good that she put that out there, though. But did she put it out there for the right reasons, to make it look bad or what, and blame it and make it look like, oh, the Arabs are like accusing them of blood libel again? You know what I mean? Like, so you got to wonder what was the real reason she did that.
Well, the thing is, right after that, didn't the House and Senate, they passed a resolution condemning anti-Semitism? So.
Yeah. So, well, I'm just saying, she did say, I guess, the truth, but what was the reason for it? Who knows? But it's good that people get aware of this stuff. That's a good thing she did, at least, putting it out there. So, yeah, I give it both ways. It was good and bad, So, depending on the reason why she did it. So, good point, OJM. Here's a famous one. The blood libel of St. Simon of Trent. There's a plaque up for this one. This child became a saint over this. 1475. Saint Bernardino. Where did we hear that name before? The Jews massacre a child at Passover. They were accused of. Okay, Passover again. Okay. Again, Passover time. Purim. Blood libel Christopher of LaGuardia, 1890. Blood libel of Tarananu, if I even said that right. These names are freaking wild. 1494. Blood libel of Bozing, 1529. Damascus. Rhodes. Esther. I mean, look at this. This is insane. This is their website. Corfu, Exton, Hilsner, Kishinev, and Pogrom. Shiraz and Pogrom. Bayless. 1911, Ukraine. Blood libel in the USA. Here we go. The biggest one. The creation of the ADL, my friends. There have been several cases of false murder. This is their website. Or violence, accusation against Jews in the United States, including the Fagan case in Atlanta, Georgia, 1912, and the recent case of Tawana Brawley. But there was probably only one real ritual murder accusation. It took place in Massanet, New York in 1928. Okay. Just because one might be real, the others are all conspiracy, right? Whatever. This is a Massanet. It's a town near the Canadian border. September 22nd, 1928. 2 days before Yom Kippur, huh? Yom Kippur. I mean, it goes on. Blood libel program. Achilles, Poland. Russia. And probably many others that they are missing. You know, think about that.
I think a lot of the cases we hear of children disappearing, like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like stuff like I don't even heard about the Franklin cover up. Have you heard about that? Like,
Yes.
like I think like there's no mention of anything like being a Jewish movie. Like there's nothing, but I don't know. Like,
Okay. Let's look into some other interesting information here. 1 second here. Okay. Because of their actions, this is what happens, okay? This is what happens. The expulsion list, okay? 135 BC, expelled. 70 AD, Titus took Jerusalem, second revolt. They say 1 million Jews were killed. 136 AD, towns destroyed. 300 AD, Purim festival. Emperor Severus also said the Jews purchased 90,000 Christians to kill them. That's interesting. 306 AD, 325 AD, Constantine changed celebration of Easter on the calendar so it did not coincide with the Jewish Passover. This is a writing, St. John Chrysostom of St. Ambrose of Milan, who said, the Jews are the most worthless of all men. They are lecherous, greedy, rapacious, if I'm saying that right, and they are perfidious murderers, if I'm saying that right, of Christ. They worship the devil. Their religion is a sickness. The Jews are audacious assassins of Christ, and for killing God, and no expiation possible, no indulgence of pardon. Christians may never cease vengeance, and the Jew must live in servitude forever. God, this is his writings, okay? He gets a little vengeful here. And he says...
Yeah, but, St. John Chrysostom, he wrote actually, like...
Yeah.
The Divine Liturgy of Orthodoxy.
He
like
says
in
it's
Orthodox
essential for us
was...
to hate them, but that's not the preachings of Jesus. You don't hate anybody. So this guy might have went off the rails here. But you can understand why.
Well, I think what he's saying is the Bible also says to hate what's evil. Like, he's not saying hate them, hate for their actions, because...
Yeah. It's just the way they wrote it. The way they wrote it here was...
Yeah, I don't think he meant it, like... I'm just saying, St. John Chrysostom, he is considered a saint in the Orthodox Church.
Okay.
He was... Yeah, he actually wrote the Divine Liturgy, and that's a whole other thing, but I don't think he means it, like... I don't think he means it. I think he's just saying he hates their actions, or...
Yeah, this is serious business. Nice comment, Larpy. This is what they call serious content. This is insane here.
Let me go there. Yeah.
Yeah, look at these. 14 or not. We're not even at 1400 yet. It's 415 AD. 717. Emperor Henry of Germany expels the Jews from Mainz, the beginning persecution against Jews in Germany. This is way before Nazi Germany, okay? Way before Hitler was born. So they put in the media that, like, if you question, Jewish power or anything like that, you're a Nazi, right? But we got people in this circle that pretend to be one, that make anybody rationally calling this stuff out look like one. And that's a fact. That's what they're trying to do. So beware of those circles. Beware of having wrenches in those circles. Because powers that be are going to round them up. And they're going to look who was being rational at the end calling this stuff out and who was actually meaning it. And then they're going to say, well, you're violent, all this other crap, Anyways, the list goes on. Look at this stuff. Expelled from France, 1306.
England, Germany.
England. They've been expelled from England how many times? Okay, here we go. The badge was introduced in 1215 AD. That's interesting. Talmud was burned in France, 1240 AD. Inquisition in Spain. Jews and Christians burned at the stake. Yeah, there was some serious crap going on back then. It was,
Yeah, this Inquisition, that's when the Muslims invaded, right?
Yep. Yep. Expelled from Brandenburg, Germany. See, expelled from Germany again. Again, 1510 AD. Way before the word Nazi came around, right? 1553, Rome seized and burned the Talmud by order of the Pope. There was a big rift between, I hate that word, between Catholics and Jews back then. Big time.
It's also that the other two, even with Protestants and Eastern Orthodox, there was also a big.
So we got to say, yeah, good.
Yeah, even the Russian czars were also very against the czars of Russia. They were also very against them.
Yeah, we got to say, okay, why were they burning the Talmud back then? Okay, if these writings are incorrectly wrote, or interpreted by us, then why were they burning them back then? Think about that, right? There's a reason, and we just went over that reason.
I've seen conflicting things. When they say the Third Reich was burning books, just like in school we're taught they're just burning random books. Do you guys know, if it was just the Talmud?
No, they were burning. They did burn other. They burned a lot of pornographic material, a lot of dirt, a lot of dirty material. They burned obscene stuff and.
Yeah, they were getting rid of the perversions that were in their society. I mean, in a way, you can't blame them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
but it wasn't just out of the library, just throwing random books.
No, it was primarily perversion. It wasn't like that. Germany at that time. They had a very high education. So the engineering accomplishment, medical accomplishment, it was incredible. Those were primarily it was primarily just obscene books, erotic content, garbage like that.
And the Talmud and stuff. Yeah, that's what
I figured. Yeah. Okay, I digress.
But look at this, folks. I mean, there's a reason for these expulsions, and this is what needs to be talked about when everybody goes a so-called Jewish channel, and not sit there with their wrench and praise them. And there's certain people that know exactly what the heck I'm talking about.
They just sit there and cuck and orb.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me. No, I bring this stuff up, and then I'm radical or whatever. This stuff needs to be talked about in a serious manner. This is true stuff.
Hey,
so 1881.
These LARPs are talking about complete gibberish, stuff that...
Yeah, they talk about Christianity day and night and nothing about what's really affecting the world. You know what I mean? But enough on that. Here we go. 1879, the word anti-Semitism comes into existence. I didn't know this. Interesting. 1879. We'll have to look that up, guys. This is where that started. That terminology. Huh.
Yeah, so in 1881, that's when the pogroms against Jews in Russia began. There's a lot. I think it was Tsar Alexander. He was catching on to them, and that's what Tsar Alexander. He's also demonized, he was a barbaric leader, but. Another thing is, Tsar Alexander, he also helped America during the Civil War. When we were fighting the Civil War against the South, he actually sent a armada of ships to help Abraham Lincoln fight the South. So I think Tsar Alexander, he knew stuff, which that's why I think he's unfairly demonized today. So.
Yeah. Great info, Finding Freedom. Thank you.
Well, thanks. No problem.
1903, the appearance of the new issues of the Protocols of Elders of Zion in Russia. Okay, 1903. Interesting. 1920, the appearance of Adolf. Also, Henry Ford first believes the protocols and publishes anti-Jewish articles in the newspaper, the Dearborn Independent. This is very famous, where Henry Ford comes out in public and starts calling this stuff out.
And also, I'm just like, Henry Ford was a Freemason too, so I'm a little skeptical of him, but yes, that is a good point. So
Yeah, yeah.
he was a Freemason. I just want to. Okay.
Is that true?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
I think he did. Yes, he was a Freemason.
Okay,
yes,
that's interesting. So we got to look at both sides of that argument. Here we go. When Hitler came into power, we all know this. The burning of the synagogues in 1938. 1939, Germany invades Poland. The so-called, I'm not going to even say this stuff because instant strike. There we go. Instant strike material. Instant takedown of your video.
I think
material.
it ends at Palestine, like the Arab countries, I believe.
But we're going to find ways to talk about this stuff on another platform and talk about it rationally. Good old BitChute. Here I come. All right. The 6-Day War.
Also, I want to point out, I know that we can do a whole other show on that, but Freemasonry, and I think Solomon, you can also elaborate. Like Freemasonry it's Kabbalistic in nature. Like Albert Pike said that it's right.
Yeah,
Kabbalah,
it's based on the
there have been
Kabbalah
instances of
and these ancient magical rites that they believe in.
It's like Freemasonry. It comes from the same.
It actually probably
comes
goes
from the
further back to the sorcerers of antiquity, man. It goes back.
Yeah, actually, Freemasonry actually comes from the temple. Like, so what happened is like in the book of the Second Kings, when King Solomon comes, First Kings maybe. Like what happened is, yes, King Solomon was given wisdom by God, but what happened was he started marrying women from these other tribes, like the Edomite. Like they mentioned, he married like women from the Edomites, and they turned him away, and they corrupted the rituals. So that's where Freemasonry comes from. It comes from the Solomon's temple, which was corrupted by these pagan, these Canaanites and Edomites. And it says that in the Bible. You can look it up for yourself. So. Yeah, that's that.
But yeah, here's the expulsions and why they happen. Everybody in this circle should know about this, and probably do know about this. Okay. And I'm gonna, in my future streams, I'm gonna talk about what the word Holocaust really means. It means burnt offering onto fire, a fire sacrifice. So we got to wonder why they use that word for that certain situation. And it's very interesting. And if you look in a dictionary for that word, before 1940, I believe, it's that terminology, a sacrifice under fire. Very interesting. So I like to get into some other stuff here too about where this started from with the Edomites, right? Can you explain to us Finding Freedom about the Edomites and Esau?
Yeah, so the Edomites, so I did mention it earlier, the Edomites, they come from, like I said, there was Isaac had two children. One was Jacob, the other was Esau. And, I'm sorry for not, let me just, if I can find the verse, Esau and Jacob. I apologize. I shouldn't have the worst. So yeah, essentially what happened is, yes, Jacob is the one who got the blessing, not Esau, and God, Isaac told Esau that your generation will worship false gods and you will be wicked. You essentially will be wicked, and essentially yes, they will be wicked. Essentially, his descendants, they will suffer. They'll be wicked, and that's how it went. And that's how it went from there. And so yeah, essentially what happened is, yes, Esau's descendants, Edomites, they settled south of the kingdom of Israel. And what happened is eventually they intermingled. Later on, after the Babylonian exile, and they actually intermingled with the children of Israel, and they brought in these peculiar doctrines. And that's where the Pharisees, the teachings, the tradition of the elders, essentially, not the tradition of Moses, the tradition of the elders who descended from the Edomites. That's what came in and corrupted the religion of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, essentially.
And also, I found out if you type in the chat Edomites from the land of Canaan. It's sometimes taken from by Google. It's happened to me.
We should do a test.
Yeah,
Like,
go
yeah,
ahead.
so like
Type it
Everyone
in, guys.
try to type Edomites. Yeah, try to type in Edomites. Edomites.
Yeah, type it. Type it just like this: Edomites from the land of Canaan. Google took
Just
it off of me.
Edomites alone gets taken too, just so you know. Yeah, try it.
so like, I just want to quote. This is from Genesis 27, verse 39 to 40. So when like, I don't know. Maybe I'll start I'll start from verse 38. So like, what Esau said to his father, "Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." Then Esau wept aloud. Then his father Isaac answered him, "Your dwelling will be away from the earth's riches, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow reckless, you will throw his yoke and from off your neck." So then Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, "The day of the mourning for my father are near, and I will kill my brother Jacob." So, yeah, essentially, yes, it was foretold that Esau's generation would be wicked to worship false gods, and that's how he went from there. And eventually, that's what happened. So, yeah, if you have a map of the Kingdom of Israel, there were south, like, I guess what you know today as Saudi Arabia, like, not like South, like, below Israel, Jordan, what's below, below Israel's Egypt, right? Or is it Jordan, or not Jordan? It's like Egypt, Saudi Arabia. It's like a small kingdom in that region.
Yeah, they said the Ammonites are from the Jordan region.
The Ammonites and the Moabites, they're from the Jordan, what's today is known as modern-day Jordan. Yeah, but the Edomites are from, like, south of Israel, south of modern-day Israel.
And that's why you have Ammon, Jordan, right? That's the one of the
so it would have been,
cities.
I guess it would have been like Jordan, Egypt border around there. Yeah. So Ammonites and Benjaminites, and Ammonites and Moabites are from modern-day Jordan, west of the.
Here's another little off the subject tidbit I want to present to everybody. It's very interesting. Give me 1 second to get the right page up, and I'll share it with you guys. Okay. You see in my memes here, it'll be coming up here in a second.
They're all coming up. They're broadcasting.
Yeah, 1 second. That the ISIS is an intelligence technology training military contracting company. Okay, this is where I get this information from about, my stance on who they are and what they are, and where they came from. It's a military contracting group, is what it is. It's a charade. They're using contractors. These aren't radicals. These are contractors pushing a political movement in the Middle East. That's all it is. It's a political movement. They're creating all this rift. They're creating all this conflict over there. Okay? For a purpose. The movies people off their lands. Okay? So that's why they have their Nike sneakers and their Toyotas and everything else. They're fully funded by the powers that be. They're not what the public.
Weaponry.
Yeah, it's not what the public's saying.
What happened was, I can explain this. What happened in Syria is essentially the CIA and Mossad, they orchestrated these fake uprisings. They funded these people going out and protest, and that started the. That's what started the Syrian civil war. And then what happened was they started sending particularly Saudi Arabia, Israel, Turkey. They started sending their own fighters there who were, most of them were just extremists. They were just Al Qaeda fighters. Even the U.S. State Department admitted that. I think it was Department of Defense Department admitted that some of these fighters were coming from these radical groups.
And guess what, guys? A lot of people were catching on to this. Okay, they were coming to they had their own website out called ISIS Intelligence Technology Training. Okay, they bragged about it. Okay, here, let me take the hangout.
And also, the Toyota trucks they use.
Here it is. Government and corporate security in conflict zones. I mean, it was right in your face. Guess what they did? You're not going to believe this. I told you guys this, but I'm talking to the audience. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. So, one thing about those Toyota trucks, I believe State Department exposed, those were the same trucks that they were supplying to the Free Syrian Army, which was supposedly our...
They changed the name of their company to CIS. I mean, are you kidding me? There's the logo. I guess they're not intelligent anymore. CIS provides worldwide security, intelligence, technology, and training to government and private enterprises. CIS is strategically positioned across the globe with a highly credentialed management team and personnel. That's ISIS for you. It's right in front of your face, folks.
It's in a nutshell. In a nutshell.
But a lot of LARPs around here will push it as a real.
It's like
Ryan Dawson.
The thing is, yes, why are we...
Ryan Dawson, yeah.
The thing is, why were we supporting, thing is, we were supporting the Syrian rebels who were allied with these fighters, and they ended up forming this organization, and we were supporting it. Obama admitted supporting, Obama started it, and they continued under Trump, and, it's essentially what it is. Russia, Iran, and Syria are the ones who are fighting them, and, I'm not defending those three countries, but it's the United States, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, Israel were the ones who were behind this. All the chaos that's happened in Syria, they're behind it, and what they have done with it is another thing we need to point out. Is they've imported all these Muslims into Europe, and that's essentially it's creating racial tension. Now in Europe, there's it's essentially it's turned Christians and Muslims against each other, and it's horrible what's happening. Europe is losing its identity, and I'm not bashing. I don't want to turn this. I'm not bashing Muslims, but they are being used to destroy Europe internally.
Yeah, they're being moved off their land for multiple agendas. Okay, to create conflict in other countries because of putting a new people into a place causes conflict. Okay, that's gonna naturally happen, and the main reason is to move these people off their land because they want to install new governments, okay? They want new governments to take over these countries because they want the natural resources. So the more you move the people out of the land, then the government won't have a backlash from the people because the people are moved.
That's why all these wars. There's this document. I'm sure you know what's called the Yinan Plan. It came out in the 1980s. It's actually called for balkanizing the Middle East. So and the targets were Iraq and Lebanon and Syria, Egypt. So just like Israel's enemies. So it's also to make plans for the greater Israel because I don't know if a lot of people agree, but I do believe that modern day Jerusalem is the modern day Babylon. So, I think David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, he said that Jerusalem will one day, modern day Jerusalem will be the world capital. So.
Yeah. Sometimes I get things right. So sometimes, and there's a lot of times I don't. I admit it. So I don't know. But this is not about right and wrong right here. This is just the facts.
This is a nutshell. This is a nutshell.
Anyway, let's go over the protocols of Zion, something that some of these LARPs won't touch. Let's really look at what they say and what communism is all about, right? So give me 1 second.
I wonder if they'll say it's a forgery.
Now, I would believe that if issues were different today, if these protocols said something different than what actually is happening today, then I would believe that. But these protocols are matching up to exactly what's happening today.
Didn't Henry Ford put $1 million plus into the research to write his books or something too? It's he put a lot of time.
I'm just a little skeptical. Henry Ford was a Freemason, so I'm just a little skeptical.
The protocols didn't come from him.
Was it?
All right, listen, guys. I have to go. Sorry,
Henry
my neighbor
Ford
needs
was
me.
a Freemason.
Yes, he was. Listen, my neighbor needs me. I'll be right back in 20 minutes. I won't interrupt when I come back. Okay, so is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
bro.
of course, man.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry, agents. I'll be back. All right.
All right, bro. No problem. We'll live. You're doing
All
a
right.
good job. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. All right. I'll
Yeah.
be back. Okay.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Yeah, the protocols are definitely not from Henry Ford himself. He just like
Oh yeah.
got him out there again. I mean, we showed in
Well,
the,
the international
yeah.
Jew is what I was.
Yeah,
referring to.
we showed that these protocols were out there for a long time, my friend, and let's go over them. Let's like really look into them and what they're saying. I think it's interesting. This is hardcore stuff here. This is it, okay? The protocols of the meetings of the learned elders of Zion, okay? I mean, wow. Really, really listen to this stuff. I can't say certain words because thanks to certain person, we can't say that G word anymore or get stricken. Okay, let's look in to gold. In our day, the power which has replaced that of the rulers who are liberal is the power of gold. Time was when faith ruled. The idea of freedom is impossible of realization because no one knows how to use it with moderation. It is enough to hand over a people to self-government for a certain length of time for the people to be turned into a disorganized mob. From that moment on, we get internecine strife, which soon develops into battles between classes in the midst of which states burn down and their importance is reduced to that of a heap of ashes. Whether a state exhausts itself in its own convulsions, whether its internal discord brings it under the power of external foes, in any case, it can be accounted irretrievably lost and is in our power. The despotism of capital, which is entirely in our hands, reaches out to a straw that the state willy-nilly must take hold of it. If not, it goes to the bottom. And this goes into the whole reason, of their, so-called agenda, their communist agenda of the world, pretty much. Our right lies in force. The word right is an abstract that improved from nothing. The word means no more than give me what I want in order that thereby I may have a proof that I am stronger than you. Protocol number 2, destructive education. Yeah, this is very lengthy. This will take hours to go through. But I suggest you guys look into these protocols and how they support communism.
It's right down to like the Disney movies, perverting them, like perverting the youth.
We appear on the scene alleged saviors. This is big here. Alleged saviors from this oppression when we propose to them enter the ranks of our fighting forces, socialists, anarchists, communists, nihilists, to whom we always give support and ordinance with an allegedly brotherly rule of our social masonry. There's masonry. And there it is. The killing out of the oium. I could say it like that, right? When the hour strikes for our sovereign Lord of all the world to be crowned, it is the same hands which we sweep away everything that might and hindrance thereto. This is their God, which would be like the Antichrist, right? And one of the important protocols to them is their safety, okay? They believe that they're going to be safe after these protocols are implemented, right? Okay? King despot of the blood of Zion, whom we are preparing for the world. Okay, this continues on that, you know, the rest of us are beasts. The word freedom comes out of communities of men to fight against every kind of force. I mean, it goes on, my friends. This is some important information that needs to be reviewed if you guys haven't ever looked at it. Anyways, they want this world government, right? The world federalist. You want to say federalism, you know? And Walter Cronkite gave a speech many years ago with Hillary Clinton and who else? Michael Douglas was there. And I'm going to play that speech for you guys. I think you guys need to listen to how they want to take the guns off of us in America. Because we are like the last, one of the last countries to basically disarm, like to totally control the will of the people and disarm them so there's no uprisings when they really push their agenda. So let me get that out to you 1 second. And we're going to play this. This is the ASI presents Hillary, Walter Cronkite in the world government. Listen closely. I'll put closed captions in case you can't hear too well.
You know that we have come to the point of our really being here this evening, and that is to honor with the Norman Cousins Global Governance Award, Walter Cronkite. We are proud to present to you this amethyst geode, and I hope all of you will take the opportunity at the conclusion of the program to come up and examine it. We're not worrying about anybody carrying it off. It's too heavy for me to lift. But it illustrates a very important lesson. The crystals of a geode are formed within another rock that serves as the foundation for their fragile beauty. The rock provides the structure necessary for the crystals to grow. And in similar fashion, world government is the structure necessary for global justice.
Did you hear that, folks? They want a global government court system. This is the whole goal. This is why they're trying to disarm America.
Sure. You, sir, have been a lifelong advocate of this principle, and it is appropriate, therefore, that we present you with this amethyst geode.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And there are many of us here who had wished back a couple of decades ago that we had been addressing you with Mr. President in a slightly different environment. And thank you, Mrs. Annan, for those lovely words you spoke. I will treasure them, and I'm greatly honored, quite obviously, by the Norman Cousins Global Governance Award. I'll try to get it right, since I will be referring to it frequently, of course, from now on. First, well, there are two reasons, really, why I'm particularly grateful and honored by this award. The first, I believe, as Norman Cousins did, that the first priority of humankind in this difficult era is to establish an effective system of world law that will assure peace with justice among the peoples of all the world. second, I feel rather sentimental about this award and this organization because half a century ago, Norman Cousins offered me a job as the spokesman and the Washington lobbyist for the really nascent organization called World Federalists. I was honored. He and Oscar Hammerstein met me in the Waldorf and twisted my arm quite vigorously.
Hammerstein.
Got me to take the job, to take the place of Ted Waller, who was the first lobbyist and a noted supporter of the World Federalist movement. I chose instead, it turned out, to continue in the world of journalism. For many years, I did my best to report on the issues of the day with as much fairness as I possibly could, in objective manner as possible to achieve. When I had my own strong opinions, I tried to put them aside for the moment in the interest of fairness. I didn't communicate them, I hope, to my audience. Now, however, my circumstances are considerably different. I'm in a position to speak my mind, and by God, I'm going to do it. You know, those of us who are living today can truly influence the future of civilization. We can influence whether our planet is going to live or die, whether it's going to drift into chaos and violence, or whether through a monumental educational and political effort, we will achieve a world of peace under a system of law where individual violators of that law are brought to justice. For how many thousands of years now have we humans been what we insist on calling civilized? And yet, in total contradiction, we also persist in the savage belief that we must occasionally at least settle our arguments by killing each other. While we spend much of our time and a great deal of our treasure in preparing for war, we see no comparable effort in establishing peace. Meanwhile, emphasizing the sloth in this regard, those advocates who work for world peace by urging a system of world law and order, world government, if you please, are called impractical dreamers. Those impractical dreamers are entitled, it seems to me, to ask their critics, what is so darn practical about war? First, we Americans are going to have to yield up some of our sovereignty. That's going to be, to many, a bitter pill. It will take a lot of courage.
Did you hear that? He wants to take our sovereignty. They want to take our sovereignty. That's number 2 on the agenda.
A lot of faith, a lot of persuasion to them to come along with us on this necessity. Our forefathers believed that the closer the laws are to the people, the better. Cities legislate on local matters, of course. States make decisions on matters within their borders. And the national government deals with issues that transcend the states, such as interstate commerce, foreign relations. That's what we mean by federalism. Today, we must develop federal structures on a global level. To deal with world problems, we need a system of enforceable world law, a democratic federal world government. You know, what Alexander Hamilton wrote about the need for law among the 13 states applies today to the approximately 200 sovereignties in our global village, all of which are going to have to be convinced to give up some of that sovereignty to the better, greater union. Hamilton said, and it's not going to be easy, Hamilton said, to look for a continuation of harmony between a number of independent, unconnected sovereignties in the same neighborhood would be to disregard the uniform course of human events and to set at defiance the accumulated experience of ages. Today, the notion of unlimited national sovereignty means international anarchy. We must replace the anarchic law of force with the civilized law of force of law. That's water. You know, Churchill used to say, nearly every speech, at some point he'd reach for a little glass, and he'd take a sip, and he'd say, that's water, you know, water. Except he lied. Ours is never going to be a perfect world, for heaven's sakes. We all know that. There can't be a world without some disagreement, probably occasional violence. But it will be a world where the overwhelming majority of national leaders will consistently abide by the rule of world law if we have our way and can sell our program. And those who won't obey the law, the international law with which we'll be governed, are going to be dealt with effectively and with due process of the structures of that same world law. We're never going to have a city without crime. But we certainly would never want to live in a city without law. A law to deal with the criminals who are always among us. Not here this evening, you understand. The three suggestions with which I've been furnished for immediate action that would move us in the direction firmly in the American tradition of law and democracy are these. First, keep our promises, for heaven's sakes. Keep our promises. We helped create the United Nations, of course. We helped develop the UN assessment formula by which it is financed. Americans overwhelmingly, I think, every poll shows it, wants us to pay our UN dues. Wants us to pay them with none of these crippling limitations that we, with our arrogance, seem to want to impose. We owe it to the world. In fact, we owe it not only to the world, we owe it as well to our national self-esteem. How embarrassing it is to go among the peoples of the world knowing what they know about our niggardliness. Please get that word right if anybody quotes me at the United Nations. And second, ratify the treaty. Ratify several treaties. Ratify the treaty, for goodness sakes, to ban landmines. Why can't we understand? Our representatives worked hard and long to get the Law of the Sea Treaty, and we haven't ratified it even. Selfish interests to dictate, not the national interest or the international interest. The comprehensive, these are other treaties we haven't ratified. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, you know. A treaty with the catchy phrase, catchy title, the Convention to Eliminate All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Title may not be catchy, but the idea certainly is. And the Convention on the Rights of the Child. We haven't done that. Most important, we should sign and ratify the Treaty for a Permanent International Criminal Court.
Permanent International Criminal Court. Wouldn't that be something, huh? Imagine the new rules they would come up with and the new crazy laws. That would be something.
That is now at the core of the World Federalist Movement's drive. That court will enable the world to hold individuals accountable for their crimes against humanity. And the third point, just consider, if you will, after 55 years, the possibility of a more representative and democratic system of decision-making at the UN. This should include both revision of the veto in the Security Council and adoption of a weighted voting system in the General Assembly. Our organization, the World Federalists, have endorsed Richard Hudson's binding triad proposal. George Soros, in his recent book, The Crisis of Global Capitalism, has given serious attention to this concept, which would be based upon not only the one nation, one vote, but also on population and contributions to the UN budget. Resolutions adopted by majorities in each of these three areas would then be binding, enforceable law. Within the powers given it in the Charter, the UN could then deal with matters of reliable financing, a standing UN peace force, development, the environment, and, of course, human rights. Some of you may ask, although I think most of you know the answer, why the Senate is not ratifying these important treaties, and why the Congress is not even paying our UN dues. Even as with the American rejection so many years ago now of the League of Nations after World War I, our failure to live up to our obligations to the United Nations is led by a handful of willful senators who choose to pursue their narrow, selfish political objectives at the cost of our nation's conscience. They pander to and are supported by the Christian Coalition and the rest of the religious right wing. Their leader, Pat Robertson, has written in a book a few years ago that we should have a world government, but only when the Messiah arrives.
Yeah, which Messiah is that there, Walt?
He wrote, literally, any attempt to achieve world order before that time must be the work of the devil. Well, join me. I'm glad to sit here at the right hand of Satan. The only
I'm sure you are, Walt.
way we can do it is to organize a strong educational counteroffensive, stretching from the most publicly visible people in all fields to the humblest individuals in each of our communities. That's the vision and the program of the World Federalist Association. It begins with education and it ends with success and hope. Let us hear the peal of a new international Liberty Bell that calls us all to the creation of a system of enforceable world law in which the universal desire for peace can place its hope and its prayers. As Carl Van Doren has written, history is now choosing the founders of the World Federation. That was back there at the beginning. And he said, any person who can be among that number and fails to do so has lost the noblest opportunity of a lifetime. Thank you.
We would like to bring you a message from the First Lady of the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Good evening and congratulations, Walter, on receiving the World Federalist Association's Global Governance Award. For more than a generation in America, it wasn't the news until Walter Cronkite told us it was the news. Every night at 6 o'clock, we welcomed you into our living rooms and listened as you explained the complex events of the day. Whether it was the space race or the Vietnam War, presidential elections, or peace treaties, you were there, telling us in simple yet riveting prose what was happening. You
Yeah, what's really happening?
became a trusted member of my family and of families across America. For decades, you told us the way it is. But tonight, we honor you for fighting for the way it could be. We honor you for lending your voice to the cause of human rights around the world and for your lifelong commitment to international human rights law. From your reporting on the Nuremberg trials to your work with the WFA campaign to end genocide, you have stirred our consciences and challenged all of us to live closer to the words of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. So thank you, Walter. Thank you for inspiring all of us to build a more peaceful and just world.
That's not what I read in the Talmud there, Hillary.
We are still listening to your every word. And with your continuing leadership, we can sail across these unnavigated seas into the 21st century. And there's no better captain I can imagine than you. Thank you, my friend.
I'm very pleased to present the distinguished actor Michael Douglas.
Well, Mrs. Clinton sort of said it for me because, like,
That was that, folks. That's pretty much their agenda. They want this world court system, this world government project.
Yeah, and I also want to point out, it was primarily, like, what David Ben-Gurion said was that in Jerusalem, like, in the Jerusalem Supreme Court, just remember this, it has all-seeing eye on it. That's where he said we would build a global court where we will settle all disputes and have a one-world government. He said this. He said it in a magazine, I believe, in 1960s. It was David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel. He said in Jerusalem, we'll build a global court where we'll settle all disputes and conflicts. And the Israeli Supreme Court has the Freemason all-seeing eye on it. So, you know, and, you know, that's all I have to say. Still there, fellow man?
Yeah. It's just overwhelming to go over this kind of information. Like, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's just, I don't know, like, yeah, that's a whole thing. You know, they want to enslave all of us. Like, he also says, like, when the Jewish Messiah, when he comes, like, what he's supposed to do is, yes, he's supposed to establish, like, worship for the Jewish God and, you know, end all other beliefs, essentially. So, you know, it's just wickedness. It's wickedness.
Yeah, I mean, it all started basically with, you know, this idealism from you know, the Judaism sect, you know.
Yeah, like it started. It primarily started.
Well, I think it goes a little further back than that, but you know, through sorcery, Kabbalah magic. I mean, we'll be getting into that in future streams, definitely.
Yeah, like, well, you know, like, if we can talk about it briefly, like, a lot of this stuff, it comes from Babylonian, pagan Babylonianism. Like, when they were the Jews were exiled in Babylon, they adopted a lot of their customs, a lot of the witchcraft that Babylon used to practice. And, you know, Babylon was Babylon is like the origin of all pagan religions. Like, not all Christian religions are Babylonian in nature. So whether it's, like, you know, the European, like the pagan European religions or tribes, they all have origin in Babylon. So, you know, they adopted the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
they took it and then they got this supremacist ideology and they just wanted to take over and enslave all of us.
That's what they write about. They write about this stuff. So it ain't like we're making this out of thin air. Making it up. So.
Yeah.
I want to go a little bit over the Leo Frank case a little bit more. I think it's just something that needs to be pounded into people's brains, really, of why the ADL is here today, okay? I know we're pretty much knowledgeable about it right now, but there are a lot of people out there that still don't know the details or didn't really look into it. So I really want to go over a little bit more, just to top it off a little more. You know what I mean? So, let me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Yeah. Is there anything else we need to cover?
Oh yeah, there's going to be a little more.
Okay.
Let's see. The ADL and the Leo Frank case. The ADL was founded by a Chicago lawyer, Sigmund Livingston, in response to the 1913 murder-rape trial of Leo Frank, a middle-class Jewish manager of a sweatshop in Georgia, who they supposedly said raped and murdered a 13-year-old lower-class Gentile non-Jewish worker. The prominent Jews who were even at the time in American history were preparing for the total domination of American society by their own kind. Were incensed at the word oyum, a derogatory Jewish term for non-Jews, had the audacity to indict one of their own for the crime despite the fact that there was a mass evidence pointing to Frank's guilt. Okay, on Sunday the 27th, April 1913. 1913 was a very crucial year, right? The beginning of the Federal Reserve and this case as well, and the beginning of the ADL. Kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
It was. So you said it was created in 1913.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that was and then 1913 was also the Federal Reserve Creation Act.
Yes.
When the Federal Reserve. Yes, essentially when the Federal Reserve.
Yep.
Like
so.
When the Federal Reserve started. Like yes.
Yeah, your mic's going crazy. Something happened. It's all right. When the body of Mary Fagan was discovered in the basement of her workplace, the National Pencil Company factory in Marietta, Georgia, Leo Frank, the northern U.S.-born factory superintendent, was president of the Atlanta chapter of the Jewish Secret Society, B'nai B'rith. Okay, he was president. Now, here's another little factoid. He was also a bisexual, pedo, and a drug addict, it says, who managed the factory with all evidence points to the fact that he demanded sex from the 13-year-old Mary, then she resisted. Dude, you're having major mic issues, bro.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's all right.
I'm gonna go dark for another 10 minutes. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm in my car. I'm gonna go dark for another.
Okay.
10 minutes,
Okay. Here's the lynching part. The Zionist ADL continues to exploit this incident to the maximum to this day. Zionists control Hollywood, even produced a film in 1980s, The Murder of Mary Fagan, with Jack Lemmon and Kevin Spacey. Here's the charter of the ADL. This is their so-called purpose. This is interesting. The immediate object of the League is to stop by appeals to reason and conscience, and if necessary by appeals to law, the defamation of the Jewish people. It its ultimate purpose is to secure justice, fair treatment to all citizens alike, and to put an end forever to unjust and unfair discrimination against the ridicule of any sect or body of citizens. I would believe that if they said different in their Talmud. I just read total hypocrisy right here, you know. So I think everybody should really look into Mary Fagan. Just check this out. And digest it and understand where we are today with this crap. OJ, you there, bro?
Yeah, I'm just getting in. I need like 5 minutes. But I'm here.
I'm still here. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I hear you, bro. You guys have any takes on?
Or not being annoyed, right?
Yeah, you're okay. You have any take on this? Any more feelings about it, or do you think we missed anything? Hello? Can you hear me, bro? OJM? Alright, forget it. I'll do it on my own. Alright. Here's something I want to show you guys. It's pretty interesting. Alright. I just wanted to hear your take.
Yeah, well, I'm just coming in, settling in. I didn't catch a whole of that.
Alright.
Sorry.
It's alright. Guys put in a lot of effort, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was just headed home, like I said, I was just catching up. My bad.
I think we pretty much nailed the core of the information. I think it's very important for people to realize what's going on and where everything starts from, and why a lot of people are, you know, a little upset out there that don't want to talk about, you know, these issues. So let's talk about like more of current events a little bit. You know, we heard Walter Cronkite talk about this world government and how to get there. So the only way to get there is to sway opinion, okay? They got to convince everybody that they're right and they're telling you the truth, and we got to protect them. You know, we got to protect their agenda, right? So to do that, you got to convince the people to give up some of their rights. You heard it from Walter, right? So to do that, you put out psychological operations to get the naive public to think a different way. So, you know, you create chaos, and then out of the chaos, they're going to bring in the order. Okay, they even stated that in the protocols. Okay, so they use a lot of these staged events. You know, I called staged treason. It's against the will of the people. I mean, they're using misdirection to convince people to give up their right to defend themselves with a firearm. So to do this, you got to create fear, and that's why you have these so-called beheadings out there by so-called radical groups. British radical
ISIS
groups.
Members.
Yeah. So
some people might not know what we're talking about.
This is a pretty funny one that happened in my early truther days on YouTube.
Are you gonna go over?
Yeah, we're gonna go over that.
Sweet, you are. Yeah, this is a good one.
Yes, sirree, Bob.
Oh, shit, sorry.
All right.
Sorry about the background noise.
That's all right, my brother.
I'm almost those two. Yeah, this one you guys are gonna want to watch, especially those ISIS believers.
All right, where are we at here? Let's get this a rolling. All right, let me get these stupid memes off. All right, here we go. I'm surprised this is still on YouTube. I really am. But these two siblings just lost their brother to a beheading a couple days before this interview on Katie Couric. Okay? A so-called beheading, and I'm sure you guys remember it. The Foley incident, James Foley. Okay. Now, remember, these people look like a certain people, right? I mean, look at her. Okay, and you'll notice her expressions. What you know when someone's lying or faking it, you could just tell by their body language, right? So when you watch this, you're gonna see the male there pretend to cry and like grab for a tear with his finger, just like Cassidy Stay tried to do. Just like I think Obama did that a couple times. You know, it's like almost like a code word gesture that they do. And
I have seen Obama do that.
Yeah, I've seen him do that a couple times. But you guys are going to get what I mean when I play this. You know, for those
this is great.
Think that these beheadings that they're putting on television that they're saying happen are real. Okay? But don't get me wrong. There are beheadings in the world, and this stuff does happen. And that's definitely under the Noahide laws, which I can go over at the end here. I do have a little tidbit on that information. So let's play this, and I'll quit babbling. You guys can watch this.
Ridiculous stuff being put out. Couldn't get any worse. They go and outdo themselves yet again. We got the Foley siblings kind of smiling and laughing during this whole interview. There's not one tear shed the entire interview. And the really funny thing is, it's like this is some movie set or something. In the first few seconds of this interview, a picture just falls off the wall. it's like, what is this? Is this some movie set that they didn't, I don't have pictures falling off my walls left and right in my house.
Katie are in Dover, New Hampshire this morning. First of all, we'd like to extend our deepest sympathies to both of you and your entire family. I think it's hard for all of us, Katie and Michael, to imagine the pain you've been going through. So how...
It's just so funny. It's like this thing was just set up right before the interview started. Just one more time. I just love this.
I think it's hard for all of us, Katie and Michael, to imagine the pain you've been going through. So how...
Of course, the whole Foley supposed beheading video, they don't actually, the supposed terrorists don't actually show him getting beheaded, and then they show some still picture of the after. Why wouldn't the terrorists show, they supposedly edited the video themselves, these supposed terrorists edited the videos themselves, and the government's now saying if people even watch this video, you could be considered a terrorist. It's so fucking crazy. There was tons and tons of videos of the fake FSA rebels that were funded by our government, and Obama loves them, beheading people, and they were real beheading videos. I actually uploaded a video called President Obama Wants You to Meet Our Newest Allies, the Syrian Rebels. That video got taken down so fast because it actually had a lot of actual real beheadings in it, and they didn't cut away right when the beheading's about to happen. So the videos they show of this supposed Foley character getting beheaded, they don't even show it, and it's this little butter knife looking thing. And the guy doing it is British. The guy who's supposed to terrorist is British. So, come on, people. Anyway, I'm going to just show some of the ridiculous laughing that the Foley siblings are supposedly doing after their dead brother, after their brother is killed. And they just don't seem very upset. There's no tears. They do this thing where they rub the underside of their eyelid, just like Cassidy Stay did. And that's an attempt to make your eyes water up when you rub your eyelid vigorously right near your eyeball using your fingernail. That's not a normal way to brush away a tear. Brushing away a tear, you use the index finger, a couple other fingers below your eyeball. You don't try to touch your eyeball. Anyway, so check this out. It's crazy. It's crazy that people are buying this shit.
All of us, Katie and Michael, to imagine the pain you've been going through.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. I think for the most part, just getting together over the past few days, we've all flown in and we're all staying at my parents' house. And
A large family, a large extended family, a couple little ones running around the house. There's a lot of distractions, but there's just been an outpouring of support.
Decided to pursue a career in journalism in his mid-30s when he went to Medill at Northwestern and got a master's degree. What drew him to this profession, do you think?
Well, it actually was, I think, the perfect mix of his interests, right? He cares deeply about people.
I was up that morning, and somehow I got a Skype alert, and so I opened my computer, and it was Jim. And he was just talking to me, and I told him Happy Thanksgiving. He's like, "It's Thanksgiving over there?" And I said, "Yes, it's Thanksgiving."
No, it wasn't, Katie. He was, I think, detained for something like 40 days in Libya. We worked day and night to get him released. I'll never forget meeting him in Tunisia and flying him and Claire home, and just the thrill of that moment. And a lot of us were really.
Another time and I think another person with Jim, they were debating different lectures, gave each other history lessons. So they kind of did everything they could to kind of keep it real.
Yeah. I mean, he's always been that way. So, yeah.
No, I was not.
No, I'd like to think that it did happen, but I certainly wasn't aware of it.
You mentioned this.
I certainly wasn't aware of it. Global change, I just hope they do something here to benefit Stephen and the others, because there is things that can be done. We are sitting on prisoners, for example, in Guantanamo. It doesn't even have to be financial. There's ways to do it, and I don't mean to go off on a rant on this. I just feel strongly that more can be done moving forward.
It's believed that the despicable person who did this to your brother is in fact a British citizen. When you learned that, when your family learned that, what was your reaction?
I don't know if we really focused on where he was from or really, that piece of it. I think we're all just praying that he and the other captors can be merciful at some point. I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he being an English citizen has much to do with it, other than I hope that,
I wonder if this guy was a man.
Yeah. What it means is the MI6 is involved. That's what it means.
We even spoke with parents that had children
I wonder if he's a Mancunian.
Fled and defected, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word.
What isn't surprising is that ISIS, now they're calling it ISIL or IS. They keep changing the name because ISIS may be too obvious. What isn't surprising is that it's a British guy and an American guy, and it's being used as an excuse to now bomb Syria. Now, this is the sick conclusion here. They don't care where the guy beheading their brother is from. They don't care. What they do want in this video, two things they bring up, is they want some sort of retaliation, and they also want to change the U.S. policy on hostages, where now if a hostage gets taken, a huge amount of ransom money can be paid to the hostage takers. And that doesn't surprise me, because the hostage taker in this video is a guy who probably works for MI6. This is a British intelligence person who's fake beheading an American intelligence person. He claims he's a reporter, but he's most likely American intelligence, seeing as how he was there when Gaddafi was taken out and all these other pivotal moments and has been taken hostage before. So that's the whole point of this. They want the invasion of Syria, and I actually called this out in a video I did not too long ago, a month and a half ago. I said ISIS would be used as an excuse for the invasion of Syria, and that's exactly what's happening now via this staged event and others. And they keep capturing all these weapons, and they keep capturing all the flags and the special uniforms and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then we gave it to them because this is where all our tax money is going. It's going to paying all these militias and all these fake little groups and calling them freedom fighters or terrorists or whatever. And it's about controlling both sides of the conflict and getting what you ultimately want, which is the division of Iraq into 3 countries and the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad in Syria. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm calling it out. Iraq will be in 3 different countries within a year or year and a half at most. And ISIS will be used as an excuse to increase activity in Syria, or they just will be used as a proxy to attack Bashar al-Assad.
Loved ones being held hostage by ISIS, the jihadist group that beheaded James Foley, with Foley's brother now saying the White House didn't do enough to save him. The administration is hinting it may now expand the fight against ISIS, and ABC's John Carl is with the president on Martha's Vineyard this morning. John, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan. The White House is now calling the killing of James Foley a terrorist attack on the United States as the president is weighing options to step up the fight against ISIS. Saying, quote, "Today our swords are unsheathed towards you, government and citizens alike, and we will not stop until we quench our thirst for your blood."
I don't even understand where that type of hate comes from.
Well, all U.S. airstrikes so far, and there have been 93 of them over the past 2 weeks, have been on ISIS targets in Iraq. The president is now considering hitting ISIS targets in Syria as well. As one of his top advisors said, Paula, we're not going to be restricted by borders.
So there you have it. It's the Hegelian dialectic.
I'll get it for you.
Any more obvious?
In a couple
Problem,
minutes.
reaction, solution. Problem, you can't get Bashar al-Assad out by just funding his pathetic FSA rebels that just completely failed at taking over that country. And also, problem, you want to stay in Iraq as long as possible, and you never want to leave that country, especially after building the world's largest embassy. Reaction, create a fake terrorist threat group that is so powerful that they must be stopped in the form of...
Yes. Yes.
Oh, sorry, was I interrupting the video or not?
Yes.
Okay, I'll
It's
Okay,
okay.
I'll shut
It's
up.
okay.
Sorry.
I'm
back, man. I apologize for that. I'm back.
Okay. It's okay.
ISIS, which has occult Egyptian references up the ass. ISIS is the mother of Horus, which I talked about in the other video. And then solution, you need to attack ISIS in Syria. You need to go bomb Syria now. And you need to go stay in Iraq and bomb those targets too. So you get exactly what you want by creating a synthetic fake event. In this case, it's the Foley beheading and the other now staged, will soon to be staged beheadings or this build-up.
This guy's spot on. Good job, Bent Wallace.
And you get exactly what you wanted all along, and you dupe the American taxpayers into going billions and billions of dollars more in debt and killing more American soldiers in pointless wars. Although not that many American soldiers are going to die in this stuff, but it's mostly about how much money.
Yeah, I mean, when someone's lying to you or BSing you through body language. Like, look, she even looks up in the air trying to remember, like, the story, in a manner that looks like she's lying. You know what I mean? It's really bad. It's really bad.
Spending on this.
Look at that. She's grinding her teeth, pretending that she's upset. Like, if you lost your brother 3 or 4 days before this, I guarantee the pain is going to be unbearable. What is
don't
this?
forget to mention what kind of citizens these guys are.
Yeah. I would not doubt these are non-American citizens. Let's put it that way.
I thought these are Israeli.
I can't confirm that. I can't confirm that. No, I was pointing that out there. Just look at the face.
They look Synagogue of Satan-like to me.
Oh, well, yeah. Maybe.
Well, yeah,
nonsense now that I've been calling out for years now, starting with the FSA Rebels videos that I was doing years ago. I knew this was going to happen. It's obvious these media people are much more transparent than they would like to be, and the government just does what they need to do to get what they want, and you know what they want already. So any country that's around Israel is going to be invaded, or they're going to have a green revolution, or they're going to have some overthrow of their government until they're friendly. It already happened in Egypt. That's why the Egyptians were out in the streets in the millions trying to get rid of their dictator that was installed, and that's why Egypt doesn't allow transfer between them, a Islamic country, and the Gaza Strip, also an Islamic. It's a region of Palestine. So it's a little strange. If Egypt was in fact an Islamic country that loved fellow Islamic people, why do they have a huge border? Why aren't they allowing the free flow of people between Gaza and Egypt? Well, they've already been overthrown, just like every other country is going to be that surrounds Israel. And fake little threats like this Foley scam, false flag hoax are going to be used as an excuse to invade Syria, attack Syria. Syria is one of the big.
Anyways, this guy does a good job breaking this down. I'm surprised it's there, still there.
Yeah.
But
so
Go ahead. Give your response. Go ahead. I want to hear.
Yeah. So this whole ISIS side, there's a video of an Israeli. He's on Israeli TV. He's saying that ISIS stands for this is prior to ISIS becoming. He said it stands for Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, and that's essentially what it could be, because there was a video of one of the fighters, he had a Star of David around his neck. So
I tend to go with the Egyptian god Isis, because the Freemasonic element behind all this is very rampant. And the killing of Isis is an actual ritual that Bill O'Reilly wrote a book called The Killing of Isis, and that's an actual ritual. And that occultist Dennis Fetcho, I think you heard of him. He's got that show called Inside the Eye. He has all these Freemasons on, like Blackbird 9 and all those other people.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, well, it's definitely very occultic, and he even shills for Masons. He says, "Oh, it ain't the Masons," and all that. And he gives a lot of clues about what they're doing behind the scenes in the occult networks and the occult magic that they're into. But he claims that he's calling out Jewish power at the same time, which is very sketchy, and a lot of other groups caught on to this guy.
Well, you have to be skeptical. People are just calling out Jewish power, not talking about
and
Masons.
He's stationed, Dennis Fetcho's stationed out of Amman, Jordan. That's where he is. He's in Amman, Jordan, broadcasting this stuff. So, he's right in the heartland of the occult there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. So you think this whole fighting ISIS, them defeating it, that was part of a ritual, something it was symbolic of something, because who came in.
There's always something symbolic behind what they're doing. Always.
I mean, every event there's something occult. If there's something big on the news, then there's something occultish about it. And another thing about, if you talk about the occult, I might you guys are aggressive. Look, if they have memorials with a reflecting pool and a black monolith, then something is not right. Just be aware of that.
The reflecting pool and the monolith, very well put. Yep.
Yes. Because like we said, it's at the World Trade Center Memorial, at the Oklahoma City Memorial, at the Shanksville, Pennsylvania Memorial. Just the moment you see that, there's something, then something is not. A reflecting pool does symbolize, how the Washington Monument, if you go to the National Mall, Washington Monument has a reflecting pool right in front of it. There's something occultic about reflecting pools. there's something, I don't know too much, but there's something about it which is curious.
Yeah. And I want to show one more thing here. It's pretty funny. Give me a second. This is Ryan Dawson's response. I mean, Domingo's response to ISIS. And it's pretty funny. Give me 1 second here.
James Foley, and how tragic it was that he got his head cut off by ISIS, by religious fanatics, and promised and vowed to fight them. Except they've been ignoring them for a long time when they were doing the exact same thing.
They're coming for you, Ryan.
Cutting the heads off of people when it was done in Syria. Because ISIS hates Assad and the U.S. hates
The
Assad.
geopolitic god of
Everyone
disinformation.
Just remember, this is the person who said a plane hit the Pentagon. Just remember that.
Just remember that, right?
Yeah.
He has proof.
Killing people wasn't enough, but when you
Killing people, right, Ryan?
a speech, by
You're
the way,
so
which the mass
intelligent.
media aired for
Stationed out of Japan, but he knows everything that's going on in the Middle East. Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? Poor Ryan. Oh.
So he's pushing that it's real.
Of course. Sandy Box as well. Sandy Box as well. Oh yeah. Right. He's right behind the mainstream media, man. He's their anchor. Buy my shirts. Buy my coffee mugs. Support me. I need your money.
Yeah, he sells t-shirts. He sells t-shirts. He's like, and what's like and C t-shirt.
Is there anything else? Yeah, I think I have a little bit on the Noahide laws. I think I uploaded it to my computer.
Yeah, so those are the 7 laws that they say the Gentiles have to follow.
Yeah, and the beheadings to come and all that. I don't know where it's at. Give me a second.
And Noahide laws also, those are not biblical. Those are nowhere in, there's no relation to them in the prophet Noah. There's no...
shoot.
Like, there's no relation. Like, I'm just letting everyone, the Noahide laws never appear in the Old Testament ever, so...
I'm going to have to do the internet
Also.
search for them.
Yeah, the Noahide laws.
Yeah, I put them out on a video before. Well, let me go to my own channel. That's a good idea. But go ahead. You guys can elaborate on all this. You know, just keep your.
We're just saying, like, a lot of this doctrine, it's non-biblical. It's nowhere mentioned in the Old or New Testament.
Nope.
And you have anything to say, OJ? You have anything to add on?
Did you explain that Edomites thing? Pretty good.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, I was looking. I had never even heard of that.
Yeah.
Until just recently, these Edomites. I don't know. I thought that was. I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about the ISIS thing. I do remember watching that beheading though when I was like a normie or whatever.
Well, did the chat type in the Edomites from the land of Canaan? If they type that in, Edomites from the land of Canaan, and see if it gets taken from Google, because it happened to me.
Yeah, anyone that can type that in, I'll be impressed. Edomites.
Yeah, Edomites from the land of Canaan. See if it gets taken off.
Type it in again. I never saw it come through. I was looking.
Everybody type it. See what happens.
Like, I see it on my thing. That's it.
Yeah, it's shadow banned. I don't see it.
Let me refresh it. Like, does it?
No, I'm watching on my other computer.
You don't see it, right?
Basically, that's what they're saying the Jews of today are, the Edomites, pretending to be the
Edomites and
Israelites.
the Edomites and the Canaanites. That's what they are. They're actually 3 things: the Edomites, the Canaanites, and the Khazarians. Khazarians. That's a different story. But yeah, the Khazarians, like I said, it was a kingdom like which today, modern day, like it's like I guess like between Russia and Armenia, there was this kingdom called the Khazarian kingdom. They were whites and they adopted Judaism. That's where like the Ashkenazi Jews, the white ones, they descend from the Khazarian kingdom. So they're not even like they're like far from the tribes of Israel.
Yep. I don't see it coming up in the chat.
Yeah. Has there been anyone that's tried to type it yet?
I did. I typed it in. I don't see anything.
Anybody else? Nicola?
Let me see if I can do it as a wrench. Let me just try this. I'm just gonna write just Edomites. Let's see if it comes through. So yeah, see, even I get censored.
Yep.
As a wrench.
See, there you go, folks. There you go. I'm not making this stuff up. You cannot type in the Edomites from the land of Canaan. So there is something behind it. The truth gets censored. There it is in real time, my friends.
Yeah.
Just wait
So
till
just
you start.
remember, yeah.
I bet we got some
Somebody got it.
Edomites in our pocket. Edomites LARPing.
Yeah, you have to type it. You have to type it misspelled for it to go through. There you go.
Someone got it through, so.
I don't where. So,
It's misspelled.
no, she misspelled. She misspelled it.
She misspelled it on purpose to try it out. You get it?
Oh yeah. Here, let me try something. She's a wrench though. Well, let me just try something. Let's see if it comes in like this. Yeah, all right. You have to misspell it like
you have to
every other.
misspell it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna take another look into this.
Does the word Canaanites
Edomite stuff.
Does the word Canaanites, does it come through or not?
I think it comes through.
I haven't tried it.
Okay.
Try it out. Fun.
Yeah, I think it does. I've tried it before.
No, I just typed it. Canaanites.
Yeah,
I just
that comes through.
Huh.
Give me a second here. I'm messing around.
I
I'm
remember
trying to find a
this.
stupid video of mine.
It's pretty crazy though. Like.
I found that out the other night, right? Remember that OGM
Yeah,
when I was like going
together.
Yeah, we found it out together.
We found it out in like a Baptist chat, remember?
Yeah. We were checking
she
the
banned
channel.
you for saying Jew. You wrote Jew, and she said, "We will not have this talk."
Yeah, you did like those Baptists, like they're very pro-Israel. Like John Hagee, he's a leader of the Southern Baptist Convention. He's like the biggest show for Israel. He's like.
Hey, remind me to give John L. that link before I stop this. That link of that video.
You still in the chat? Fuck, we did forget to get that.
Okay, let me. This is one of my old videos from 2015, my friends. Give me a second.
5 years ago.
5 years ago already. I can't believe it's still up. A lot of them got banned.
Like your Earn Song little videos, those are gone, aren't they?
Yeah, they're gone. There might be one or two left.
Yeah, there's like.
Okay. This is my main channel. I made this video in 2015 when I used to do content all day, all night. Before I use OGM as a meat shield.
Well, it's a meat shield to abuse and beat people with a stick with.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, I went over this stuff way before the GDL was created, or this is back when HT was supporting Bernie, okay? And this is back before OV voted for Jill Stein. So let's put this out here. I gotta put this out again because people think I'm LARPing. Here it is. The 7 laws. Guillotine is the preferred method of death because the organs of the deceased may be more efficiently used for donation. No-hide laws passed Congress 1991. Death by guillotine. Modern Sanhedrin will preside over no-hide. Modern Sanhedrin will preside over no-hide laws. Execution by decapitation. This is in 2015 I was learning about this stuff. You know, they were, warning about the I can't say the G pride. You can't say that on videos no more about criticizing that stuff. There it is. Just read over that. That's on my Winston Smith channel. But yeah, that's the no hide laws for you. That's what's coming down the pipe. So what can you do? But expose it as best you can.
Also, once again, no hide lies. They're not biblical. They're not. It's nowhere in the Bible they're mentioned. Nowhere. Anything else? I think we got a lot of stuff.
Is GGW stopping in or not? I would love to hear her take. She don't have to say certain things if she doesn't want to because she's in Denmark. But
Oh, they have law. They have laws in. Do they have what laws in Denmark?
Yeah, there's certain. Yeah, so I understand. But if she's busy, I get. But I love this. She's very intelligent, and she has a lot of content. She's putting out good content, guys. I suggest you sub to her channel and check it out. She's really putting this stuff out there, and I give her, credit for that. And Nicola as well. She's given us a lot of information about Iran and current events on these down planes and the sketchy information coming out of that. She's given us a lot of info. I mean, we got a good group of people here, and I'm really happy to have you guys. And
dude, I'm glad to be a part of this.
Yeah, this is the real deal here. This is.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the best stream we've done in since last February or March.
Yeah, this is back when we were doing 9/11 in New Zealand. This is what I miss.
You want to cover some of this stuff like New Zealand? You want to jump into it
again? That'll take forever, bro. I just want to keep this on this kind of topic. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we're gonna be making a video.
You don't want to play the sound clips? Or do you not?
What?
No, you don't. All right, we can do that.
Well, the thing is, if we play the footage, they're gonna take us down immediately.
Yes, we can't even do that.
That's that footage. The footage is the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I get you.
It's like they're trying to make
sounded
fun
like
of
a
us,
shotgun there, man. You sound like a little AR-15 going off. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, aren't they trying to mock us? They're playing that music in the beginning. It's like they're making fun of us. They're trying to make fun of us. Say, yeah, you guys actually buy this. And
I hope you guys can help me out with this next video I'm gonna make about New Zealand, showing the audio footage or the audio samples and the visual footage between the closed circuit television view and inside the car where Brendan shoots out the driver's side window, okay? Sampling that sound versus the sound on the closed circuit television view from the top of the building, okay? Those two sounds are nothing alike. Nothing alike. And you're going to see the difference and hear the difference. And this is going to blow it out of the water. Other people tried to put that video up and it gets pulled right away. So we'll see what happens.
So if you could rank the top 3 worst hoaxes, in terms of how bad they are, what would you say? What is their top 3?
I call them staged events. You want to keep with that word, okay? Okay. Top 3. Well, Sandy Box, I would say, is one of the top. Okay, to me, Vegas is one of them. Pulse, with all the G4S connections. Bataclan. The Bataclan attack at the Eagles of Death Metal concert.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically the same as the Vegas situation.
They're just having people run out they're not actually.
Yeah. There's a lot of.
All they do is create let's say the people in the concert, actual real concert, they just create noise, and then people just run out. That's it.
Yeah. And the Charlie Hebdo, that's definitely a big one. Of obvious.
You can have footage like where they're running on the street and they fire the guys.
that was the easiest one to see. That was definitely the easiest. I would say New Zealand was a little tougher, but you had to go through it a couple times and really.
Well, the thing is, like, most people have not seen it. Like, it's only like if you really dig, like, to find the footage, you really have to dig for it. It's not that easy to find it. So.
Okay.
I'd say one in San Diego that was pretty bad too.
Yeah, definitely.
Or the Houston one, the Cassidy Stay, that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely Cassidy Stay. She was supposedly hit. Dumbledore says the next day she's on a car. Supposedly she got hit in the head with a bullet. The recent ones were even bad. The El Paso event. There's so many, man. I mean, I can't give them like a top 5 list. They're just so bad,
The Florida was the Pensacola one.
I'm not familiar with it too much yet, but
I mean, it was like on the same day. There was two of it. There was that one, and there was one of the UPS truck, I think, and it just went like. And then the governor was like Ron DeSantis was like, we have to pass laws.
Yeah. Here's another interesting sample with that Foley girl, and her sister is named Alex Israel, I think. Or Alex Israel looks like her sister.
Alex Jones, Alex Israel.
Yeah, it's just funny how they use that name in these stage names for television. It's kind of funny.
It's like the name Alex Jones is like such a simple name. Like it's like he's a character. Like I don't even know if that's his real name. Alex Jones.
Let me see if I missed any information here. Give me a second, guys. I mean, we basically went over it. Yeah, we went over everything. Yeah, we did a good job. Anything else you guys want to conclude here so we can wrap this up? I want to thank everybody for coming. Nicola, GGW, thanks for all your support and all the information you give us.
Coming on in 5 minutes.
Oh, is she coming on? Okay, I'll wait for her.
I think so. Paul Motley. Never mind.
Wow. We got someone who doesn't think GGW has good info. I think she has great info. That's crazy. But,
wow. Hey guys. Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear.
I can hear you. Welcome.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to add something.
Yeah.
You guys have done an amazing job, but just to put up some current events, I have some notes here. Just so people think that this doesn't or only happened in the past. This is this happens today too. Sorry, my English is a little rusty here. I just want to say, like 2 years ago, I think it was 12 Israelis got arrested in Colombia for running a huge child trafficking ring.
Yeah.
And it was a huge deal down in Colombia. I don't have the link for the article, but I can drop it in the comment section.
Sure.
And there's also been a lot of talk down in Syria where two or 3 years ago, I think it was 22,000 Syrians had their organs removed.
Wow.
just out of nowhere, and some of them died during this.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, and I made a video about it where I'm sobbing like a little bitch because it's so sad. But it's just let me see here. In 1989, I know that's a while ago, they found a skeleton of a little girl in a synagogue in New York when they were rebuilding it, and of course that case was suppressed. But they found evidence of her being, treated in not very kind ways. So this shit is still going on today, and I just want to kind of close up by saying not to worry all you Americans, but like there's 400,000 kids that go missing every year in America. So I think it's 800,000, but 400,000 of them has been kidnapped by their own family members. So if you exclude that number, there's still 400,000 kids that disappear without a trace in America each year. And you just gotta wonder where all these kids, where do they go to? And all the children in the wars, all the children who lost their families. And as someone pointed out in the chat too, in Africa, it goes on all the time. Like you had this video up on your playlist, Philoman, with all these children going missing in Uganda, I think it was, where they thought it was like witch doctors and shit doing it. But if you look at the way these children were killed, it looks very similar to the rituals that these Chosenite people perform. So yeah, I just wanted to add that so people don't think that this is something from the past. And you also brought up the whole Oprah clip, where this girl is admitting that she was in this family who had done this for generations. So it's still going on, and it's just horrible that we can't talk about it because we're not the hateful ones. We just want to, warn people about this and alert the world that there are people out there doing these horrible things to children. So yeah, I just wanted to add that little thing so people don't think it's all in the past. So yeah. That's all for me.
Yeah, that's
a good job. Like,
yeah, that's a great point. I don't think this ever stopped. I don't think these rituals just magically stopped.
I mean, there was an incident. I don't know if you Gina, do you know what the Franklin cover-up? You know about that?
Yeah. All those boys. Yeah.
Like a lot, the thing is, I think there's much more. I know some people say it was high government politicians, but it's much more than that. There must have been some Jewish influence there. I know there's not much information on it, but I know the guy, the kid's mother, what's his name, Johnny, I forget the last name, but I know his mother, she was talking, she used to give talks about such rings existing, and I mean, I see missing, I see missing posters all the time, of children, and to think about, that they have been victim of this barbarism is just, it's just awful.
It just tears at your soul, right? And then when you're I know this is not to I'm not pro Trump or pro anyone. It's just I'm just bringing up the Hillary case because her assistant Laura Salisbury, I think her name was, got caught on the way out of Haiti with, I think it was 15 children that they just stole down there, and their excuse was, we're bringing them to this orphanage in I can't remember, Sao Paulo or some shit like that, or Puerto Rico it was, sorry, Puerto Rico. And it was just none of the media, they just ignored this shit, and combined with all the Podesta. I know some people here are skeptical about the whole Pizzagate thing, but if you looked at all the Instagram post of that sketchy guy with the pizza place, there was a lot of sketchy stuff there, and all Podesta's paintings and all of that. And then on top of that, that fucking assistant of Hillary getting caught with all those children, it's just disgusting. And I mean, it's children. Why aren't the media covering this?
One thing I find interesting is Pizzagate, it came out right when her system was exposed. It was right around there. I feel like Pizzagate was trying to deflect attention from that. I just feel because there was it goes much deeper than Pizzagate. It's much deeper than that.
And they tried to bury the fact that Trump was connected to in the first month it was all about Clinton being on the plane and stuff, but Trump has been on that plane too. And
he was Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. They were both on the Epstein Express.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, if you look at that island and look at the temple out there, Epstein's the little temple on the island, a lot of people have pointed out that it looks kind of like the Baal temples, the old Baal temples. Yes. And just why would you need a temple on a fornication island? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm just it's too disgusting. And then if you go into, they had these, there were some people who flew a drone across the island, and they found this ceremonial area, and it was a big round one with a pit down in the ground. And to me, that looks like it was called a Tophi pit, and they used that back in ancient times to burn the children in. They would just throw them in there. And the biggest case of this was when the Jays, they lost a fight in Syracuse, and apparently they wanted to appease their god by burning 500 children in a huge giant pit. And Socrates and all these other writers at the time wrote about this, and that spot on Epstein's Island, it just looks exactly like the drawings of those old ceremonial pits or whatever you want to call it. It's disgusting. And yeah, I mean, I'm going around in circles here, but it's just there's so many things like connected, and all of these high class people, and we all know it's all a big fucking kabuki theater for the little Gorams.
Yeah, I think there was an instance in the United Kingdom. Rick, have you seen that video? I'm sure you've seen it. Like those two children, they're talking about their dad performing like sacrifices. Like, have you seen that video, right?
Yeah.
Where he's saying like he killed their dad, like is like sacrificing children. Like, it's scary. And that thing, apparently there was big suppress. Like the authorities really trying to suppress that. Like,
yeah. And now over there in Britain, of course, it's horrible what's going on with the grooming gangs. It's horrible, and I'm not trying to like shield for the Muslims or something, because the people who do that, they're just monsters. But I just found a channel. I found a channel recently with two British people, actually, what do you call it, confronting Jewish pedophiles, and they go out like they I don't know what you call it, like they lure them in on the net pretending to be little girls, and then they arrange a meeting place. And then there's just tons of videos of these like rabbi-looking, weird, disgusting ewes just standing there and be like, no, I was just going to talk to her and I didn't want to harm her. It's like, you're going to talk to a 7-year-old kid in the middle of the night, fuck off.
Yeah.
And sorry, these two people are just so brave, like confronting them, but I guess
it's not hate though. This not hate. It's lack of accountability. Why we're frustrated and dislike their actions.
Like we said, we don't hate them. We dislike their action. We dislike intensely their action. That's what I say. I just dislike intensely what they're doing.
Exactly.
We don't hate them. They're human beings.
No.
Well, look, I'm just saying, we just dislike their act. We just dislike their actions intentionally. That's all I say. I'll leave it there.
I always say this, like I come from a place of love for my own people, but also for all people. I'm very fascinated with all the different peoples of the world, and I see all of them being screwed by this tiny tribe. So that's why I'm speaking.
Of course, everywhere. Like, it's not just like, if you look at even Muslim countries, they've been hurt very hard by like what the Jews have been doing. Like, yeah, every corner of the world I think has been affected somehow.
Yeah. And of course, you just look at the old colonial trading companies. There was one person earlier in the chat who said that kind of like a snarky comment about like white people kind of deserving this because we aided the Jews throughout the world. And my point to that person was all the trading companies in colonial Europe were owned by people called Moses or Shapiro.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like,
the native Europeans did not benefit from colonialism. All the riches went to the elites. My people, at the time when my country had one tiny little island called St. Croix, and that was our only colony. We weren't big on that shit, but anyway, on that island, like all the trade slave owners and everyone there was Jewish, and they actually undercut the sugar farmers in Denmark because they imported the cheap sugar from the colonies, and today we have Black Lives Matter in Denmark, like running around shaming people. They even have this big statue of this horrible lady who murdered a bunch of black people and white people, even though she was a freed slave. That's a long story. But anyway, at the same time as we freed the slaves on that island, we were some of the first to make slavery illegal. Danish people were still fucking slaves to the king. So this whole narrative that white people have been like stealing from all over the world, of course there's some nasty white people elite out there. I'm not saying that, but it's just like they play all these groups against each other. It's like, yes, these elites stole all these resources from around the world, but it didn't benefit like the working class poor people. Like they died on the fields just like everyone else, so.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, like a lot of people don't, even in the United States, like the South, like the Confederate States, like who are this, like most of the slave owners, most of the owners, they were primarily Jewish. And here's the thing, the Civil War, who was the chief financier of the Confederate States was a man named Judah Benjamin. He was an Ashkenazi Jew, and he was friendly with the Rothschild. He was in direct communication with the Rothschild family. So, this whole like it's like, yes, the slave trade was their institution, and so was like the British Empire was essentially like it was also like who was running all the finances in Britain. It was the Rothschild family. So
exactly,
it's a whole like this whole
they just jump from country to country. Like at first, they also used Holland. Holland at one point was like the major force, the major naval force of Europe. And then when the Dutch people got tired of being screwed, they kicked them out, and then they went on to England. And then they just, they move around and just use that population of the country that they control as their fucking puppets to do all their evil, and it's just disgusting.
That's what they did. They used the British Empire for their own evil domain. Now the British Empire has lost its influence, but now it's like the United States is their main. Like they used the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was also their primary tool, but now, they let it go, and now the United States is the primary tool for like they're implementing their world government.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's like. And they'll let it go. Like they used the USSR when it was good for. Like they created the USSR. They used it for when it was good for them. And once it lost its value, they. And think about the fall of communism. A lot of people there's one guy named Antonin Golet. I forget how do you say his name. There's one guy he was a Soviet defector. He actually said that the Soviet Union would collapse. They would pretend for it to collapse, and then really communism would reform itself and come back in a new form. And what's happened with the European Union and the United Nations? It really has. It has communism still exists. It just manifested itself in a different form. So
yeah, exactly. And it's just like I guess they realized that they kind of fucked up the whole old version of communism, because people after the Berlin Wall fell down and everyone started realizing how fucked up it was over there. They couldn't just branch out and go into the Western world and be like, hey, be communist. So as you say, they had to kind of rebrand it into, what do they call it now? Like socialism, democracy.
Like cultural Marxism. Yeah, Marxism, socialism. Yeah, essentially, yes, it exists. It just manifests. And some guy predicted. I forget who the Soviet defector was who predicted. It was like Antonin something. I'll find out his name. There was one person he predicted exactly. Here it was Anatolio Golestin.
GGW. They don't call him Talking Freedom for nothing, So.
Me and him can battle it out, because I talk like a waterfall too.
Here was the guy. I can't really. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his name. This was a guy. He actually predicted. He predicted the Soviet Union would fall apart and it would just reform itself. Communism would reform itself and come in a new. He wrote a really good book on it. He showed how communism would essentially just reform itself and come back in another form. And that's what it's done. It's come back in this form of hardcore liberalism, this pro homosexuality, dissolution of a family, it's multicultural. It still exists. It's just a different form. It's just not the Soviet style. Yeah. That's it.
And it was it's just almost like a mirror of what happened to Russia under the Bolsheviks, because in the beginning, they did all the things that they did here, promoted homosexuality and free sex and all of that. And by the 30s, Stalin actually had to kind of roll back on these ideologies, because Russia was plagued by millions of orphan children from all these whoring people who had just been living life to the fullest or whatever, rock and roll, and had just been whoring around, and it was just chaos. So even Stalin, the psychopath, realized that, okay, if we gotta have a functioning country, we need to control this craziness. And I'm not fucking a pro-Stalinist or what, he was a psychopath, but I'm just saying that even within Russia at some point they realized that this doesn't work, man. This is so I just want to put one more fact in when we were talking about the whole blood libel, because as most people here probably know, the Russian Tsar and his family was murdered in the most brutal ways, and according to the rumors, his daughters were raped for days and then thrown into pits and set on fire. So, and that's actually something that the Bolsheviks bragged about. There are many books written from Trotsky and other Bolsheviks explaining how they did this, and it's just these people brag about their evil, and then when we point it out, we're somehow the hateful people. And it's mind-blowing that they have been able to keep all this undercover. But I guess when you're on the media, it's easy, you know.
And it's like one thing about the if you look at like I pointed out earlier, the two biggest mass genocides were what were they? The Armenian genocide and the Holodomor. And those were both done. Like the Young Turks were Jewish, I believe, and so was the Holodomor was plotted out by who was one of Stalin. I forget. I'm sorry, I'm not good with names, but one of Stalin's chief, one of Stalin's higher ranks. He was Jewish. He's the one who plotted out the mass starvation of Ukrainian men, women, children. It was just like that was one of the biggest. That was one of the biggest mass killings in history. It was like 10 million Ukrainians got killed because of that. And the Armenian, thing is like a lot of people forget this about Armenia and Ukraine. They were both Christian nations, and it was a genocide of Christians. That's what I say. It was a genocide of Christians.
Yeah, it was, and the Armenians. It's good you bring that up because Turkey has been trying to pretend that it didn't happen or it was an accident or whatever. But they found all the mass graves, and it's like it's public knowledge now that the Young Turks, which are crypto Jews, collaborated with the Kurds and got the Kurds to act as the soldiers and kill all the Armenians. And then the Turks promised the Kurds the Armenian area, but then the Turks screwed the Kurds and didn't live up to the promise. And at that point, the Kurds had already murdered all these. I'm not saying it was exclusively Kurds, but the Kurds got tricked into this and got screwed by Turkey, but also acted like fucking assholes. That's why I'm not as pro-Kurdish as many people. I mean, that's another story. I like the Kurdish people, and I think they deserve their own country today, but they have done some horrible things to Christians. So the whole victim LARP is But anyway, can I read a short quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn?
Yes.
He wrote that book. Thank you. He wrote the book 200 Years Together, which is about the Jews in Russia. And it goes through year by year how the Tsar constantly tried to get the Jews to work for a living, stop poisoning the Russians with alcohol, and just contribute to society. And every time he made a law saying you can stay in Russia, but you have to feed yourself. You can't just mooch off of us. They would get all riled up and accuse him of anti-Semitism. So yeah, we all know the story about the Jews. So every time you hear these stories about the horrible Tsars of Russia, suppressing the Jews, there's two sides to that story. But anyway,
here's one. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No,
Tsar I think it was Tsar Alexander II. Tsar Alexander II. They always demonize him as he was a brutal leader, but I think he's the one because he saw that what they were doing, financially. Also, I think he saw what they were doing to Russia. He knew what was coming for it. That's why he was trying to get them out of high-level positions and get them to convert. Yeah, and that's why Tsar Alexander II is the most he's demonized really badly. And another thing is when we were fighting the Civil War, we know the British and who was supporting this. The Rothschilds were supporting the South. He actually sent a naval armada to help Abraham Lincoln fight the Confederates. So I think he knew what was going on. So I'll let you talk now.
No, it's okay. He knew, and then the tragedy of this whole story is that he kicked them out of Russia, and they immigrated to Germany. And at that time, the Germans were too naive, and they let him in. And then within 40 years, this small group of Jewish people who had fled from Russia for trying to assassinate the Tsar fucking stabbed the Germans in the back over and over and over. And if you want to know more, people have probably heard Benjamin Friedman's epic speech, but he explains it what went down there. So that was the Tsar did a good job throwing them out, but it ended up being a tragedy for Germany. But anyway, before I go around in circles, let me just read this quote because I think Alexander, he did it really well. Okay, he said, "You must understand, the leading Bolsheviks who took over Russia were not Russians. They hated Russians. They hated Christians. Driven by ethnic hatred, they tortured and slaughtered millions of Russians without a shred of human remorse. It cannot be overstated. Bolshevism committed the greatest human slaughter of all time. The fact that the most of the world is ignorant and uncaring about this enormous crime is proof that the global media is in the hands of the perpetrators."
Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
Great statement.
Yeah. And this is a Nobel Prize winning author. And of course, after this book was translated into English, he kind of lost favor among the elites, but very brave.
And And like when they came to Germany, like what they did is like what they're doing right now. They did the same thing to Germany, like prior to the National Socialist rise. Like they were pushing homosexuality in the media, the degeneracy. They controlled and bought up all the politicians, and they printed out so much money that put the country into.
What bothers me the most is how people give up power to them. Like they bought into their bribery to let this happen. Like power has to be earned or given to.
Yeah. And that's
why how did they? It's amazing how they conquer without actually conquering through, like war and physically. You know what I mean? Like it's amazing.
They do it stuff. They like do it like they like try to they do it sneakily. They're sneaky about it. They're not like they won't like directly because people won't just like if there's an invader. The natural instinct of anyone is to fight them. Like if someone's invading, but if you do it like if you slowly sneak into society and try to like take over like the banks and all that. Like I think was it Mir Rothschild said just give me control of the banks. I don't care who is president of the country. So
what do you think about the Samson option? Do you think that they're crazy enough to let go and nuke if they don't get what they want? It's like they hold us hostage in a way, like we want you to do this, we want you to do that, or we're going to set off a nuke and start a whole war in the Middle East, and we don't care what happens. Like they're almost like kamikaze. You know what I mean? If they don't get what they want.
They got their hiding place. I'm sure if something were to happen, they're going to hide for.
I'm just wondering like how so many countries is. It's amazing to me.
I think, fellow man, because I get really frustrated too with all the shabos out there, and you get mad and you just want to shout from the rooftops and be like, this is so frustrating. But I think the fact that they I think how they pulled this off is because like 90% of the people in the world are good people who can't imagine that this kind of evil even exists. So like people have the blinders on because they think now this is just stuff of the fairy tales. But I mean, so I think that's one of their major forces is that most people are really, really good, and most people can't imagine that this stuff. I mean, it's taken me. I read David Duke when I was like 15, but still, it took me a long time. And I'm not going into here, but I'm just saying that it still took me a long time because even though I read about it, I could see it from a young, from being really young. For the longest time, I still had this cognitive dissonance. I was like, it must be exaggerated because no one could be this evil. And I think that's one of their greatest forces, if you want to call it that, is like the rest of the world is pretty good, and they aren't, so they can fool us all. But
well, I used to buy what the media said all the way up to like I think 2007, 2008. I mean, I still question 9/11, with the inside job stuff back then. But the video that woke me up was the Missing Links video. It was like was like the loose change version of what's really going on behind the scenes. And it woke me up. It showed like how many Jewish people are behind the scenes on 9/11 in the Bush cabinet itself. Silverstein, all these names kept coming up. Missing Links is the most, the most crafted video I've ever seen. I couldn't find any disinformation in that video. I could not find anything that was sketchy.
I've not seen a better documentary on 9/11 than Missing Links. That's the holy grail on 9/11. That like puts it in the coffin.
Yeah, that woke me up. That woke me up. To this.
Yeah. And just the fact that, I mean, the whole world knows it. It's like, even my niece who's like, she's 13, she's like, yeah, Israel did it. Like everyone knows about this, but it's like, we're just being, what do you call it, gaslighted or whatever. Like, it's just, it's so frustrating.
Here's the thing. Like, I think, I know a lot of people think, like, 9/11, that's, like, common knowledge now that 9/11 was an inside job. But, like, who did it? Like, a lot of people don't know, like, who was in charge of the FBI, and then who was behind the 9/11 Commission, who was, like, the World Trade Center security company. They don't tell that was an Israeli firm, or who was behind airport security. Like, that's like, a lot of people don't know that stuff. And
but this was a multiplayer event too. The British had their hands all over 9/11 as well.
Yeah, and we know, and
You
interesting to know, like when one of the, it was American Airlines Flight 11, I believe there was a Mossad agent on board. Like it's confirmed that there was an agent on board that
and
flight.
we're gonna dig into British Israelism too. That's a real thing that's happening. And Bill Cooper did a good job on that information before.
Yeah, well, one thing I think about, like, I don't blame the British people, but it's like the British Empire has like the city of London. Like, one thing a lot of people don't like. There's a part of London called the City of London.
Yeah.
It has. It's not part of like. It's not actually part of any. It's not.
Shit, it's so weird. Yeah.
It's like kind of like Washington D.C. here. Like it's not part of it. It's not part of London. It's not under subject to the British Parliament. It's its own independent body. Has its own police force, and that's where the Rothschild family resides. So, that's something. It's like a perfect place for them to rule.
And 9/11 had a lot of the occult involved with it.
There was a lot of Kabbalism.
There's a lot of sorcery involved with 9/11. There's more to it, than just the financial end and the political end.
And also the
symbolic.
number, just the number of it. It happened on the 11th, which is a sacred number for them, and they have this idea that if they have to achieve something, achieve a goal, they have to achieve it before the 11th of a month. So that's why that was
just like the help numbers. Not you dial 911 for help. That was way before the 9/11 event happened. That was the call number, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, another thing, like, I think, like, in my opinion, I think 9/11 was planned out for, like, they had planned it out since, like, like, when they started building the Trade Center, I think it was planned out.
Yes.
I think the tower was built to be torn down. I feel like...
I really believe that now. With the occult involved, yes, I really believe that.
Yeah, they built them to tear them down. Like, I think that they probably just built them with explosives laced in them, so... Something like, I don't know what they used, but...
That's another issue. I think we're going to wrap it. Talking
There's
freedom.
a lot of other occult.
Talking freedom. I'm going to wrap it up. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
GGW.
So let's just say our closing statement.
Can I talk? Finding freedom. You did a great job. You did a great job. Thank you for helping me.
I'm really sorry I had to go for. I'm sorry I had like a gap. Like it's just I'm really sorry. I really am sincerely
You
sorry
go at
about
1,000 miles per hour, but I respect it, and that's just how you are, and I love it. So, you did a great job tonight.
Finding Freedom did an awesome job.
Yes, he did.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, he did. And OGM, you did a great job as well, helping getting this information out there. You did a fine job, and thank you, GGW. For your insight. You're very knowledgeable, and your content is superb. It's the content, I kind of touched on before, but I just don't do anymore because I feel like it's almost useless. But you do a very better job at it than I do. So
I want a comment on that. Like to all the cucks out there who don't put any content out at all. They, and they want to bitch at GGW while she's been doxxed and smeared, and she's in one of those countries with these strict laws, and she's still putting out content and fighting back.
She's doing a superb job. Her videos are great.
In the chat want to give her shit. So
you know what my tactic about it? Because I know that that they're monitoring all my channels because that certain person said that in a chat. I'm gonna report all her additional channels. So. My strategy is to just put out as much content as I can because I'm already doxxed to these fuckers. So I'm thinking if I can just red pill one of these bastards and bring him over to our side, that would have made it worthwhile for me. So that's just my tactic. I'm done hiding. I have a million channels, and I'm gonna keep going here. So yeah.
I applaud you. Trust me, there are people. I know they got their people watching our stream too. I mean, there was one incident. This was like last April where somebody actually came on our stream and actually said he said he works for Homeland Security. He actually said I'm gonna
that guy. His name was Gog Man. He was a troll. And he was a good one, too. His name was Gog. He was funny as hell. I think Rook was there. No, I don't. I lost it when I lost my channel. Yeah, it was so funny. I couldn't stop laughing. He had these army of trolls with him, too. They were good trolls. I mean, they were trolling the heck out of us. It was insane. It was funny, though. He says, this is an anti-Semitic channel. You are going to be reported to Homeland Security right now. I ain't having no part of it.
Did he say that he didn't mean to show his face? He was like, accidentally had his webcam.
It was funny. It was funny.
Yeah, he's like, hey guys, I'm with the Department of Homeland Security. You guys are saying some very anti-Semitic stuff. he's like, yeah, he's like saying you're saying my people. He's like, I'm defending my people.
God,
I'm just saying they got their guys watching.
It's funny. But anyway, good job, you guys. I got to cut this off. I got to work.
All right. You know, I just want to thank everyone who came on. You know, thank you for the, you know, I hope you found it informative, and you know, we'd love to do another broadcast in the future. There's a lot of stuff we got to talk about. So, yeah, and if you guys want to say anything, go ahead.
I think we pretty much wrapped it up, and I want to say thank you to the chat. You know, I'm trying to do a new direction here and get back to where OGM and I started from, and now we have a good group of people with us, and you know, I'm going to be putting more videos out on BitChute where you don't get censored as much, and I'm going to be doing the stuff that I really want to do there. So yeah, let's try to start a new year off in the right direction and try to do this stuff rationally without looking like some of these other groups out there using derogatory terms like the K word, the N word, and looking like clowns to the normies. So I'm going to leave it at that, and thank you all for coming. Goodbye.
All right, peace.
Bye.
Peace. Bye.